The first thing I did upon returning to the 1980s was to swap the fake Heiress's vitamins for real medicine. In my past life, after my high-ranking parents found me, the imposter daughter refused to return to her birth parents in the countryside, so she pretended to be ill and stubbornly overstayed her welcome at the military sanatorium. My parents, pitying her frail health, not only made me wait on her hand and foot but also demanded I give her my university acceptance letter. I refused. But my mother pleaded with me earnestly. "1U scores are only good enough for a technical college in some remote region. How can that compare to Capital University in Beijing? The environment is better, and the medical facilities are superior. She can't handle hardship. But you're different, you grew up in the countryside, you can adapt anywhere." Left with no choice, I had to go to that technical college on the distant frontier, studying there while preparing to retake the exams. Little did I know, on the very day I received my new admission letter from Capital University, Pei-1U had people kidnap me and take me to a desolate no-man's land on the border. Sending you to the frontier was mercy enough. How dare you still dream of returning to the capital? If you go back, how am I supposed to stay in the Pei family? Pei-1U, with strength like an ox, strangled me to death in the no-man's land. 3 days later, my corpse was devoured clean by wild wolves. My parents thought I was holding a grudge and refusing to come home. I had no choice but to rely solely on Pei-1U, leaving all the family's assets to her. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day the fake heiress pretended to faint. I know Pundi resents me for taking her place. After all, who wouldn't want to be the commander's daughter? But I never imagined she'd lock me in a room, starve me, and even hit me. Hearing Pei-1U play the victim first, I realized I had been reborn. Sobbing, she rolled up her sleeve to reveal several red welts. My father, the general who had just returned from out of town, saw it and his eyes blazed with fury. Smack, a slap landed on my face, the sound exploding in my ear. "Because of you, 1U starved herself until she developed a stomach illness. The hospital report even mentions multiple internal injuries. How can you be so malicious at such a young age? Is this what your country bumpkin parents taught you?" I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth and stayed silent. My country parents even named me Pundi, hope for a brother, so they certainly didn't have time to care about me. In my past life, I endured 18 long years in the countryside. No sooner had my high-ranking parents brought me home than they left for an out-of-town meeting, fearing that her return home would mean being sent back to Zhujiatan. Pei-1U came up with a plan to feign illness and stay in the city, and so I became a pawn in her scheme. It was she who said I reeked of chicken droppings and refused to eat with me for days. Yet when our parents returned, she twisted the story, claiming I, as the true daughter of the house, was abusing her out of spite, starving her and even hitting her. My parents, being high-ranking officers, have soft hearts. They sent her to the military district's sanatorium to recuperate. I was naive, thinking she was genuinely ill from hunger. I had no choice but to swallow my pride and wait on her, hoping she'd recover and leave soon. But she wasn't satisfied. After the college entrance exams, she actually demanded I hand over my university acceptance letter to her. When I refused, she and her country bumpkin of a father started playing the victim. My mother, Chu Hongmei, could only try to reason with me. 1U scores are only good enough for a technical college in some remote region. How can that compare to the capital's prestigious Jing University, with its wholesome environment and superior medical facilities? She can't handle hardship. But you're different, you grew up in the countryside, you can adapt anywhere. With no other choice, I left home for that technical college on the frontier, attending classes while preparing to retake the entrance exams. On the very day I received my renewed admission letter from Peking University, Pei-1U came to the borderlands and strangled me to death in the desolate wilderness. It turns out she never intended for me to return alive. 3 days later, my corpse was completely devoured by wild wolves. Yet my parents, believing I was staying away out of resentment towards them, gave all the property meant for me to Pei-1U. Thinking of this, how could I not be filled with hatred? Pei-1U's biological parents looked down on me and abused me, while Pei-1U herself used me and plotted against me. Given a second chance at life, I have only one thought: to make Pei-1U pay, to take back what is rightfully mine. My biological father, Pei Qing, stared at me coldly, waiting for me to admit my mistake. I didn't hesitate. With a heavy thud, I dropped to my knees at Pei-1U's bedside. I was wrong. I promise I'll take good care of 1U every day she's in the hospital. Mom, Dad, 1U, please forgive me. As the words hung in the air, Pei-1U's expression faltered, her eyes fixed on me in disbelief. Seeing my earnest attitude, my commander father's anger subsided. That's right, admitting your mistake and correcting it. That's my daughter. Pei Chang's girl. A large, warm hand gave my shoulder a firm pat. My father's first words of praise came because I had humbled myself and apologized to their adopted daughter. In that instant, I was overwhelmed by an indescribable ache. It wasn't until my parents were summoned away by the military district that the suffocating weight in my chest began to lift, just a little. Pei Wanyu finally snapped out of it and sneered, "Zhou Pundi, don't think that just because you backed down first, I can't handle you. I have plenty of ways to make your life miserable." Zhou Pundi was the name she should have had, having lived as Pei Wanyu for so long. She'd truly started to believe she was a young lady of the house. With a flick of her wrist, she knocked over the thermos by the bed. "Go, fetch me some water. I need to take my medicine." Shards of the thermos exploded across the floor, startling the woman in the neighboring bed into a yelp. I dodged half a step, but my calf was still scalded red. "Oops, my hand slipped. You clean it up." Pei Wanyu looked down at me, eyebrows raised. She thought making me pick up a shard of the inner pot was enough to hassle me, but back in the countryside, the sickle I used to cut pigweed was far sharper than this. When my high-ranking parents saw the red marks on Pei Wanyu's arm, they immediately thought she had suffered. But if you were to roll up my sleeve, the cuts, burns, and even the whip marks from her own father's drunken rages were far more severe than a little scratch from a shard of a thermos liner. Line after line, scar after scar, some have faded, their original form now indistinct, while others have left ugly scars that, no matter how unsightly, will stay with me for life. Compared to all this fuss, that was the real thing that nearly killed me. I finished tidying up quickly and left the hospital room. The old lady in the next bed couldn't stand to watch any longer. "Young lady, you've got quite the temper. You can't treat a caregiver like that." Pei Wanyu shot a fierce glare at the neighboring bed, pulled the curtain shut, and then reached into the bedside drawer to pull out a packet of pills. I peered through the crack in the door. "Go ahead and swap them. It's all genuine medicine anyway. You're in the hospital ward. How could I possibly let you treat your illness with just vitamins?" While Pei Wanyu was hospitalized for half a month, I was juggling preparations for the college entrance exams with taking care of her. No matter how much she tried to provoke me, I kept a smile on my face, and I only relaxed once I saw her take her medicine. Pei Wanyu, annoyed by my intense stare, snapped, "You're just looking for proof that I'm faking it, aren't you? I have the medical reports, and I've taken the medicine. Even if you go running to mom and dad, they won't believe you." It was true. The nurses at the sanatorium reported to our parents regularly. Even if I told on her, they probably wouldn't believe me. But Pei Wanyu was mistaken. I never intended to expose her here. In fact, I was secretly hoping she'd stay in the sanatorium for as long as possible. It wasn't until the day of the college entrance exam that Pei Ching sent a car to take both of us to the testing site. During the final exam, Pei Wanyu suddenly went pale. My mother, Chu Hongmei, saw her clutching her stomach, cold sweat beading on her forehead, and immediately grabbed her hand to lead her to the car. "What's going on? You've been recuperating for 2 months, but you look worse than before. Maybe we should go back to the military hospital for another checkup. The convalescent home isn't as professional as a real hospital. Come on, I'll take you there." The moment the words left her lips, Pei Wanyu yanked her arm back and scrambled to her feet. "No need." My mother was stunned by her shout. Pei Wanyu's fingers trembled, her voice shaking slightly. "And no need for the hospital, I'll be fine in a moment. If we go to the military hospital, the forged medical records will be exposed." Chu Hongmei looked at her with suspicion, then suddenly remembered something. She pulled a medicine bottle from her bag. "You didn't take your pills at noon, did you? Open up." Pei Wanyu's brow was tightly furrowed. With her neck held firmly by Chu Hongmei, she tilted her head back and swallowed 4 or 5 pills. After forcing a gulp of water down her throat, Chu Hongmei pushed her directly into the exam hall. "Go on. Get in there." Pei Wanyu staggered a few steps, her face growing even paler. Seeing my determined and spirited expression, she merely let out a cold laugh. "Zhou Pundi, you don't actually believe the college entrance exam can change your fate, do you? Well then, I wish you nothing but success and a triumphant victory." I froze, but my fist clenched. Sure enough, after the results were posted, Pei Wanyu eyed my acceptance letter with a predatory glare. Chu Hongmei took Pei Wanyu and me home to hold a celebration banquet, and many of her old comrades in arms came to congratulate us. It was at this very moment that Pei Wanyu's biological father, Zhou Dacheng, showed up at the door. The reception room on the 2nd floor. The acceptance letter from Peking University lay open on the table. Pei Wanyu had grown much thinner, but it didn't stop her from making a snide remark. "Pundi really got lucky. Performing above herself and getting into Peking University, not like me." I got a sudden stomachache and could only get into some technical college out in the boonies. She spoke between sobs, her tear-filled eyes fixed on my mother, Chu Hongmei. When I, her own daughter, got into Jing University, there wasn't a hint of joy on Chu Hongmei's face. Instead, she looked troubled and said, Wanyu, this isn't your fault. My alcoholic foster father backed Pei Wanyu up, demanding. Then whose fault is it? We need an answer. He glared at me with those eyes of his. If we weren't at the Pei family's house, he would have hit me already. It's you again, you little wretch, isn't it? After all I've done raising you, you go and make trouble for my own daughter. Secretary Chu, how do you propose we settle this? It's clearly Zhou Decheng who got the better deal. If the Pei family hadn't mixed up the daughters, his family wouldn't have produced even a junior college graduate. Now it seems as if our Pei family is the one who wronged the Zhous. What's the meaning of this silence? Then just give that so-called Jing or Qing University or whatever to Wanyu. This is a debt your Pei family owes us. Anyway, Zhou Decheng raised his hand, grabbed the teacup from the table, and smashed it on the floor. That unreasonable attitude is the spitting image of Pei Wanyu, like father, like daughter, both rotten to the core. No, I won't allow it. I snatched the admission letter back from the table, my voice firm. Zhou Decheng's eyes blazed with fury. He grabbed me by the collar. What gives you the right to refuse? Don't you forget who raised you? How dare you talk back to me? Slap. A hand struck my face, leaving my ears ringing. Even the noise from downstairs fell silent, leaving only Pei Wanyu's wailing. Mom, if it weren't for Pundi tormenting me back then, my health wouldn't be this poor. What's the big deal about her giving me her university acceptance letter? Her sickly pallor, combined with her choked sobs, left Chu Hongmei feeling suffocated. After only a second's hesitation, she ultimately chose to sacrifice me. Pundi, maybe you should just let Wanyu have it. This is your fault to begin with. You're the one who made her sick, and you didn't even take proper care of her. It's only right and proper that you compensate her with a college admission letter. You're tough. Going to the frontier is nothing. At worst, you can just retake the exam. I can afford to support you. On what grounds? The familiar words of persuasion cut into my heart. One by one, Chu Hongmei had no idea what the frontier truly represented. If I go, I'm a dead man. Chu Hongmei's attitude emboldened Zhou Decheng to throw all caution to the wind. His long, untrimmed nails dug into my fingers until they bled profusely. Hand it over. That flimsy piece of paper ended up back in Pei Wanyu's hands. Zhou Decheng snarled viciously, you little brat, if you dare bully anyone from the Zhou family again, you'll regret it. The father and daughter duo pulled off a perfect act of coordination. As she finished speaking, Pei Wanyu raised an eyebrow and deliberately coughed twice right by my ear. She was even waving that acceptance letter in her hand. It was as if she was reminding me that she had won the final victory by feigning illness. I stepped back, and she followed. So what if you're Commander Pei's real daughter? You still had to give up that prestigious university's acceptance letter for me. I'm the one destined for university and a brilliant future, while you, cough cough, those two coughs acted like a trigger, slowly twisting Pei Wanyu's insides. I watched coldly as her coughing fit only grew more violent. Refusing to subside, you can just stay at the frontier for the rest of your life. Cough, cough. A faint metallic scent of blood filled the air as a thick, frothy liquid surged from Pei Wanyu's chest, forced out with each ragged breath. She seemed to reach for something to steady herself, but the door was only slightly ajar, too flimsy to bear her weight. In an instant, she collapsed to the floor, bright red blood gushing from her mouth. One mouthful, two, three, the next second. Zhou Decheng's horrified cry rang in my ears. My girl, what's happened to you? The guard downstairs rushed to the scene upon hearing the commotion. Zhou Decheng refused to let anyone approach. Seeing Pei Wanyu raise a hand, he quickly grabbed it. Sweetheart, what's the meaning of this? You've already got the acceptance letter, haven't you? What more do you want? I almost lost my composure. Could it be that Zhou Decheng thought Pei Wanyu was putting on an act? Chu Hongmei panicked on the side. We need to get her to the hospital, now. Some guests from downstairs came over to help, including a military doctor. He rushed forward to get a better look at the symptoms, but Zhou Decheng shoved him away. Get back. How do I know you're a real doctor? What if you make my daughter worse? After all, everyone present was a person of some standing in the military district. The military doctor was getting flustered by Zhou Decheng's words. Believe me or don't, it's up to you. This is the critical window for treatment. If we miss it, you'll regret it. As he spoke, he turned Pei Wanyu over onto her stomach to prevent her from choking on her vomit. But Zhou Decheng wasn't just malicious, he was also a fool. He snatched Pei Wanyu into his arms. I don't care what you say, my daughter ended up like this because of your Pei family's meddling. Don't you dare try to fob me off with some quack doctor. Just give me 10,000 for the medical bills. And I'll take my girl to get proper treatment myself. Well, I wondered why his eyes were darting around like that. So he was just trying to shake us down for money. The guests were all shrewd people. Several had already figured out Zhou Dechang's little scheme. A military wife nearby couldn't stand to watch any longer and warned Chu Hongmei, Secretary Chu, where did you meet this person? He doesn't seem like the reasonable type. 10,000 yuan is no small sum. How could you let yourself be swindled out of it so easily? Hearing this, Zhou Dechang panicked. She let go of Pei Wanyu's hand, stood up, and was ready to argue with that soldier's wife. Just because you're in the military, you think you can bully people. My daughter got sick at the Pei family's place. 10,000 yuan isn't even enough. If Secretary Chu hadn't given birth at my house back then, our families wouldn't have mixed up our daughters. Now that my own daughter is this sick, who else should pay for it if not them? Chu Hongmei was at a loss. By that reasoning, the Pei family was clearly in the wrong. 18 years ago, Chu Hongmei, nearing her due date, went to the county town to see Pei Qing. As she passed by Zujiatan village, her labor pains suddenly started. She had no choice but to be taken to the home of Zhou Dechang at the village entrance, where she gave birth alongside his wife. Back and forth, somehow, the children got switched. It wasn't until just before the college entrance exams, when Pei Wanyu reluctantly went for her military conscription physical, that the discrepancy in her blood type came to light. She wasn't Pei Qing's biological daughter at all. Upon learning the news, Pei Qing, together with Chu Hongmei, went to the Zhou family that very night to reclaim me, but a scoundrel like Zhou Dechang, who only has eyes for money, would never let someone go so easily. He was counting on the bride price from my marriage to buy himself liquor, and he demanded 3,000 yuan right off the bat. That amount of money could build several nice tile-roofed houses in the countryside. Pei Qing knew he was greedy, but couldn't be bothered to argue. He paid the money and took me away. Who would have thought that now, upon seeing the Pei family's 3-story house, Zhou Dechang would come up with another shady scheme? He had the audacity to demand an exorbitant price. Even throwing out a figure of 10,000 yuan, never mind how much money the Pei family has already sunk into Pei Wanyu's feigned illness and her stay at the sanatorium. After all the suffering I endured in the Zhou family for so many years, I simply cannot stand by and watch Zhou Dechang run amok again. Zhou Dechang, think carefully before you answer. Whose fault is it that the wrong daughter was taken home? Don't think that just because my mother is dead. No one knows you switched the babies. The moment I finished speaking, the room erupted into chaos. Zhou Dechang's breath hitched. You, what nonsense are you spouting? You little brat, I'm going to teach you a lesson today. Zhou Dechang staggered a few steps and lunged to hit me, yet his rough, calloused hand hung in the air, never falling. Instead, a piercing shriek, hoarse as a broken gong, tore through the air. Ah, damn, who the hell dares hit me? A shadow fell over me. I looked up to see Pei Qing shielding me. Zhou Dechang was clutching his face with his left hand, his right arm firmly restrained by Pei Qing. With just a little more pressure from Pei Qing, he could snap the man's arm. Zhou Dechang, the midwife has confessed. She saw you swap the babies with her own eyes. That alone is enough to put you behind bars. How dare you come to my home and act so brazenly? Pei Qing was, after all, the military district commander, with just a few words. He had Zhou Dechang trembling with fear. He didn't dare move a muscle or utter a word out of turn, and could only kneel and beg Pei Qing for mercy. The guests were all appalled. Zhou Dechang deserves to be tried as a human trafficker for such a despicable act. Each one of them was itching to give him a couple of kicks themselves to vent their anger. But taking the law into your own hands is not the proper way. This matter needs to be settled through official channels. Pei Qing took my hand in his. You've been wronged, child. This was the first time he had held my hand since acknowledging me as his own. Just before I died in my past life, Pei Wanyu couldn't help but reveal the truth about the swapped children to me, and I nearly died with my eyes wide open in regret. This time, while I kept Pei Wanyu occupied, I had Pei Qing search for a witness. In the end, he managed to find one. Tears welled up in my eyes, betraying my composure. Chu Hongmei, torn between anger and regret, looked from me to Pei Wanyu. Finally, her gaze settled on the latter. But Wanyu is innocent. She's so ill, we must get her to a hospital. Just as Zhou Dechang was about to object, Pei Qing instructed the driver to carry Pei Wanyu into the car, with a cold, hard expression. He grabbed Zhou Dechang by the collar and hauled him into the car. Zhou Dechang was already having second thoughts, but the guards standing nearby were all built like tanks, looking like they could knock him out with a single punch. He didn't dare to refuse. Pei Wanyu was wheeled in by the doctor for her examination. For 2 whole hours, Zhou Decheng was on pins and needles. His face was even paler than that of Pei Wanyu, who had just been taken inside, seeing Commander Pei's stern expression. He remained kneeling on the ground, pleading for mercy. Commander Pei, I was truly possessed by a moment of madness when I swapped the children. At the very least, Pundi has grown up this much. If I deserve no credit, surely I deserve some recognition for my hard work. Her mother died young, and I've struggled to raise her all on my own. Please, don't send me to prison. How could Zhou Decheng have the nerve to say such things? I rolled up my sleeve, revealing the scars one by one, and demanded, is this what you call your hardship? Well, you certainly worked hard when you were beating me. A crowd instantly gathered in the hospital corridor, stopping to watch the commotion. They whispered and murmured among themselves, practically pointing fingers and cursing Zhou Decheng behind his back. Pei Qing stared at the shocking array of scars and clenched his fists. Even as a soldier, he had never seen a girl bear so many wounds. In my past life, I was both stubborn and proud, refusing to tell my parents about the hardships I endured as a child. For one, I never had the chance. For another, Pei Wanyu was seriously ill, and if I complained, it felt like I was trying to compete for attention. But now, I'm determined to speak up. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Those years the Zhou family treated me like livestock. No one gets to sweep that under the rug. Chu Hongmei, who had always maintained her composure, finally couldn't take it anymore. She broke down and screamed. Zhou Decheng, you scumbag, I hope you die a horrible death. How dare you lay such a vicious hand on a young girl, she cried, lunging to grab him by the throat. Zhou Decheng was already scared stiff. It never crossed his mind that a seemingly delicate woman like Chu Hongmei would actually resort to violence. He was too slow to react and was easily overpowered, held in a death grip, choked to the point of desperation. He finally forced a few words through gritted teeth. I'm Wanyu's real father. You can't kill me. You can't just stand by and let her grow up without a father. Chu Hongmei faltered, her grip going slack. Her heart still ached for Pei Wanyu. She didn't want to be the villain in this story. Zhou Decheng thought he had found Chu Hongmei's weak spot. Feeling a mix of lingering fear and relief, the doctor emerged from the examination room holding the test results, his expression grave. Is Pei Wanyu's family here? The results are not good. Everyone who heard this furrowed their brows. Only Zhou Decheng breathed a sigh of relief, scrambling over to Pei Wanyu's side as if mourning at a graveside. I told you it was you people who drove Wanyu to this. If you truly care for her, then let us father and daughter go home to live in peace. Stop making things difficult for us. Zhou Decheng sensed that Chu Hongmei still had feelings for Pei Wanyu. He deliberately raised his voice in a pitiful plea. Sweetheart, why aren't you waking up? Get up and say something to help your old man out. Chu Hongmei looked at Pei Wanyu with a face full of concern. This was the child she had raised for 18 years. Even if there had been a mix-up, the love she felt was real. Seeing his act was working, Zhou Decheng cried even louder. He was banking on Chu Hongmei's soft heart, and just at that moment, the doctor produced a medical record. That's odd. Why is this child taking so much stomach medicine when they don't have a stomach condition? They practically neutralized all their stomach acid, and this medical record wasn't even issued by our hospital. There's no doctor named Chow in our department. This is utter nonsense. He pressed the medical record into Pei Cheng's hands and said with grave sincerity, Commander Pei, you really need to look into this matter thoroughly. The hospital's reputation is at stake. Your daughter, she wasn't harmed by someone, was she? As soon as the words were spoken, Zhou Decheng's sobbing ceased abruptly. His heart didn't even have a chance to sink. It was just, utterly dead. The medical report was produced by Pei Wanyu. When the Pei couple returned, she insisted with conviction that the military hospital had recommended she convalesce at a sanatorium. That's why Chu Hongmei went and found her the best sanatorium available. So, it's perfectly clear who was behind this. Pei Qing hauled Zhou Decheng up from the ground and punched him, still acting. Why'd you stop the show? Even Chu Hongmei, with all her soft-heartedness, had reached her breaking point. She had spent her whole life doing ideological work, and there was nothing she despised more than a chronic liar. Looking at that forged medical report, every word on the page screamed of deception and exploitation. She wished she could tear it to shreds, crush it to dust. In that instant, all mother-daughter affection vanished without a trace. The moment Pei Wanyu regained her senses, she instinctively grabbed Chu Hongmei's hand. She could feel it. This time, she was genuinely ill. Fate had thrown her another lifeline. How could she not grab it? Tears began to streak her pale face as she played for sympathy. Mom, I'm really not well. You can't just abandon me. Mom, didn't I tell you? Pundi hasn't been taking proper care of me. Look what she's done to me. How could you bear to send me back to the countryside? She wept pitifully, her grip on Chu Hongmei's hand tightening. But she miscalculated. Chu Hongmei raised an eyebrow and asked, "Oh, so Pundi didn't take good enough care of you. How exactly should she have looked after you, in your opinion?" Completely absorbed in her own world, Pei Wanyu didn't notice anything amiss. With shameless audacity, she declared, "She can be my slave. She's being sent to the frontier anyway. What's the difference between being a beast of burden there or here?" Her words were casual, but Chu Hongmei's eyes blazed with fury. If Pei Wanyu weren't still lying in the hospital bed, her palm would have already struck her face. "You ungrateful wretch, how much longer do you plan to bully my own daughter?" In an instant, even the air seemed to freeze. Pei Wanyu looked up, her expression blank and lost. Zhou Dacheng slumped to the floor. It was over. The Zhou family was finished. Chu Hongmei flung the medical report in Pei Wanyu's face. "You're not sick at all. This medical report is a forgery. I've already promised you Pundi's university acceptance letter. How can you still be so insatiable? How dare you think you're worthy of having my daughter slave away for you?" Chu Hongmei vented her fury without holding back. She immediately turned and held me close, as if afraid I might be snatched away again. At these words, Pei Wanyu, already pale, lost every last trace of color from her face. "Mother, don't you dare call me mom. I am not your mother. Your scoundrel of a father swapped my daughter, and you, this impostor, have played with my affections. There isn't a single decent person among you Zhous. I must have been blind to have raised a viper in my bosom all these years." The onlookers, having pieced together the whole story, all felt the Pei family had been dealt a raw deal, promising to work like an ox or a horse. How could you have the gall? After all, she's their own flesh and blood. That impostor has no idea of her place. Exactly, Commander Pei and Secretary Chu must be out of their minds, treating that ungrateful wretch. If it were up to me, I'd send her packing back to the countryside and let her fend for herself. Pei Qing has a good reputation in the military district, and Chu Hongmei is a formidable and highly respected female cadre. This whole scene will probably be the talk of the entire military district by tomorrow. The Pei family raised a scoundrel's daughter for 18 years, all the while being completely duped. Even if Pei Wanyu wanted to stay, Pei Qing and Chu Hongmei would never allow it, yet she refused to give up. Rolling off her sickbed to beg for forgiveness, "Mom, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I just don't want to go back to Zujiatan. All these years, everyone has thought of me as the young lady of the Pei family. Now you want to send me back just like that. What will all my friends and peers think of me? I really can't go suffer in the countryside. Mother, please, just let me stay in the city." Once Chu Hongmei's heart turns cold, she never looks back. She took the letter of admission from Pei Wanyu's pocket and handed it to me, her eyes darting a glance at Pei Wanyu. "That suffering was always meant to be yours to bear. My daughter has endured all these years of hardship in your place. What do you have to repay her with? You can't handle a little hardship in the countryside, but my daughter is supposed to brave the wind and sun on the frontier. Everyone has their own path to walk. From now on, you're on your own." As soon as the words were spoken, Chu Hongmei turned to leave, but Pei Wanyu stubbornly clung to the hem of her trousers. My hand was released, and my heart skipped a beat. After all this, could there still be any room for mercy? Yet, in the very next moment, Chu Hongmei violently yanked the jade pendant from Pei Wanyu's neck. "This pendant was part of my dowry from my own family. You are not worthy of wearing it. From this day forward, you have no connection whatsoever to our Pei family. I will change my name back. Wanyu, such a beautiful name, what a waste on someone like you." The intense unease dissolved the moment Chu Hongmei took my hand again. "I'm not Zhou Pundi anymore." Pei Wanyu's hand fell limply to her side. She knew there was no use in saying anything more. Chu Hongmei had a soft heart, but she also had principles. When she said it was over, she meant it. Zhou Dacheng saw that Pei Wanyu had broken with the Pei family, but he himself was saddled with a heap of troubles. I wanted to run, but then I saw the police officer standing at the door. Now there's truly no one left to count on. The farce is drawing to a close. I never saw Pei Wanyu again. Pei Qing and Chu Hongmei made a clean break, and the household registration was changed back. I found the name Pei Wanyu inauspicious and refused to use it, so Chu Hongmei gave me the name Pei Huijin. As for Zhou Dacheng, the statute of limitations had passed, so he didn't get sentenced to many years. But Pei Wanyu didn't have it easy. She had truly become Zhou Pundi, cut off from the Pei family. She couldn't even afford her college tuition and had no choice but to move to the city to find work. Zhou Dacheng was, after all, a scoundrel. He believed that Pei Wanyu had robbed him of the life of wealth that was practically within his grasp. His treatment of her grew increasingly worse. On the rare occasions he came to the city to see her, It was either to demand money or to take his frustrations out on her with his fists. Her body had long been ruined from accidentally ingesting an overdose of medication. The only work he could find was manual labor. Within a few years, he fell ill and died in a makeshift shack on the construction site. When Zhou Ducheng tried to ask for some compensation, the foreman beat him half to death. He finally got a taste of his own medicine. By the time I heard about this, the scars he left from the beatings had faded to the point of being almost invisible. For the few that remained noticeable, Chu Hongmei had suggested taking me to have them removed, but after thinking it over, I declined. They're just scars, the pain is in the past, and I'm content to leave it at that. I suppose she felt she owed me too much. Ever since that incident, Chu Hongmei and Pei Qing have been exceptionally good to me, to the point of being almost doting. They wanted to make up for everything they felt they owed me. It would be a lie to say there's no lingering resentment in my heart, but at least I'm still alive. That is the thing I'm most grateful for after being reborn. I have a degree from a prestigious university, I found my birth parents, and I have a bright future ahead of me. I have nothing left to hold a grudge over. Next, let's listen to the following story. After being reborn, I meticulously avoided every single encounter with Su Jinyan this time. He was transferred to the Southern Military District. While I applied to Northwestern University, I secretly took back the marriage application he had already prepared. He bought a marital home over there, while I simply settled down in the north. All of this, simply because, in our past life, his white moonlight remained alone for him. Her entire life, feeling guilty, he secretly adopted a child with her, in their old age. Even my child with him was moved by their profound love and became part of their family. After retrieving the marriage report, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. No one knows that I have been reborn. At the very last moment before the marriage report was submitted, I rushed over and retrieved the form, using an error in the family information as my excuse. The party secretary was quite puzzled. One of you came to submit the report in the morning, and now the other comes to take it back in the afternoon. Are you having second thoughts? Not wanting to complicate things, I shook my head and said, there's a mistake in the information, I'll fix it and bring it back. Only then did the secretary relax, telling me to bring it back to him as soon as I had corrected it. I nodded, and once I stepped out, I tossed the marriage application straight into the trash. In this lifetime, Su Jinyan and I will never get married. In my past life, even though Su Jinyan filed the marriage application, his attitude towards me grew colder and colder. I thought that was just his personality, so I didn't dwell on it. I never imagined that it would take me until I was nearly in my grave to discover that Chenyi had been the unattainable love of his life all along. She never married, devoting her entire life to him. Finally, when Su Jinyan turned 40, he was moved by Chenyi's devotion, and together they adopted a girl. In time, even my own son was touched by the purity of their love. He had been secretly seeing them behind my back. If it weren't for my son's slip of the tongue at my deathbed, saying that his father and Aunt Chen could finally be together openly, I would have remained in the dark until the end. It was only then that I realized my entire life had been nothing but a joke. Su Jinyan's coldness, every single one of his transfers. It all made sense now, for no other reason than Chenyi. With every one of his transfers, we were separated by vast distances. We were married for 60 years, and though I was his lawfully wedded wife, the days we truly spent together likely add up to less than a year. When I was giving birth, on the brink of death from a difficult labor, he was not there. My child fell ill in the dead of night. I carried them on my back and searched for 3 hours in the pouring rain before I finally found a doctor. He wasn't even there when both sets of parents fell ill and passed away. In stark contrast, wherever he went, Chenyi was right there with him. Chenyi started out as just an ordinary nurse, but later became his personal physician. He felt indebted to Chenyi for her unwavering devotion and quiet companionship, so he tacitly agreed to adopt a child with Chenyi and allowed her child to call him father. Even my own son wishes for my early death, just to let this star-crossed couple be together. Returning home, I looked at the old, dilapidated house with a complicated expression. In my past life, it was right here that Su Jinyan and I got married. Just 1 month later, after we married, Su Jinyan was transferred to the Southern Military District. I wanted to go with him, but he said the conditions there were too harsh and persuaded me to stay behind, and so, I ended up living here for the next 30 years. What I didn't know was that less than half a year after Su Jinyan's transfer, that woman, Chenyi, followed him there, and so, they went their separate ways across the world, beginning a lifetime of entanglement. The absurd part was, I was worried about Su Jinyan being alone out there with no one to look after him. and I wanted to go with him, yet, he turned me down every single time. His reason was always the same. Someone must stay behind for his parents and child, and so it was. He had his confidant by his side out in the world, while my entire life was confined by him within these four walls. When I got home, Soo Jin-yeon still hadn't returned. The moment I arrived home, I found my letter of admission tucked away in the very bottom drawer of my room. In my past life, after getting married, Soo Jin-yeon was transferred to the Southern Military District. Then, a month later, my mother-in-law fainted for no apparent reason. On top of that, I was pregnant at the time. So I gave up the opportunity to study in the Northwest. This remained a regret throughout that entire lifetime. I ran my fingers over the admission letter, looking at my name and the school's bright red official seal, and nearly burst into tears. I remember in my past life, when I was on my deathbed, Chen-yi came to see me, but she brought my son along. It seemed she knew I didn't have long. So Chen-yi started visiting every single day, but when we were alone, her kindly facade would drop. And the words she spoke cut straight to my heart. What does it matter that you stole the title of wife? In this lifetime, it's always been me by Nyenji's side. You're nothing but a breeding tool for Nyen and a free caretaker for the old folks. I should thank you, though, for giving me such a fine son. Chen-yi went on and on. The tragic part was, I didn't even have the strength left to curse her. I had to watch helplessly as my own son treated her like his real mother. The two of them putting on a daily show of motherly affection and filial piety right in front of me. And even as I was finally drawing my last breath, my son, at long last, let out a sigh of relief. I said, Auntie Chen is finally about to turn a corner. I shook my head and carefully put away the letter of admission. What's past is past. The man didn't return, weary to the bone, until I was making dinner. The sight of him, drenched to the bone, suddenly jogged my memory. In my past life, on this very day, I had been overjoyed to learn that Soo Jin-yeon had submitted our marriage application. I happily bought a feast's worth of groceries, planning a proper celebration for his return, but I waited, and he didn't come home until very late. When he finally did, he was soaked through as well. I was quite worried and asked him what had happened, but Soo Jin-yeon was just indifferent and said nothing. I only found out later that, as it turned out, Chen-yi had somehow fallen into the river that very same day. It was Soo Jin-yeon who saved her. I scoffed, thinking back on my past life. It was obvious, Chen-yi must have found out that Soo Jin-yeon had submitted the marriage application today, which is why she was utterly heartbroken. She was either completely disillusioned or threatening suicide. That's all. That would explain why, in my previous life, Soo Jin-yeon was so cold to me on this very day. It seems they pinned the blame for Chen-yi's suicide by drowning squarely on me, yet, I am completely blameless in this. He was the one who proposed marriage. He was the one who filed the final report. He was the one who promised to treat me well for the rest of my life. Yet in the end, it seems I become the one who tore the loving couple apart. So, when I saw Soo Jin-yeon come home soaked through once again, I just averted my gaze. Instead of bustling about to boil water and attend to him like I did in my past life, I calmly went back to stir-frying my vegetables. With no hot water for a bath, Soo Jin-yeon could only silently go and change out of his wet clothes. He started sneezing during the meal. I pretended not to hear it. After dinner, while I was washing dishes in the kitchen, I saw Soo Jin-yeon pacing restlessly back and forth in the living room. Finally, unable to hold back, he grabbed his jacket and muttered, I'm going out for a bit. Then he hurried out the door. I pursed my lips and solemnly drew a single stroke on the yellowed old poster on the wall. Once I fill out 2 complete sets of 5-stroke tally marks, I'll be able to leave this place. Soo Jin-yeon didn't return until almost dawn. From the other room, I heard the deliberately softened sound of his footsteps, but pretended not to notice. The next morning, I thought Soo Jin-yeon had already left for work. I was just about to go buy a train ticket when I heard coughing coming from his room. My hand, holding the food, paused for a moment, but I pretended not to have heard it. After finishing my meal, I planned to head out to buy a train ticket. Train tickets were hard to come by at this time. Just lining up would take an age, but this train ticket is far too important to me. I won't have a moment's peace until I bought it early. Just as I was about to head out, I heard a knock at the door. Puzzled, I opened the door to find a young Chen-yi standing there, her face deathly pale. She looked gaunt and frail, with thinning hair and a sallow, malnourished complexion, so thin a gust of wind might have knocked her over. In my past life, I only ever saw her in her old age. I remember lying in the hospital bed, while she had a head of jet black hair, perfectly coiffed. Her clothes and handbag were clearly designer. Pampered and privileged, she sat elegantly by my bedside in a woolen cape, a world apart from me, lying there exhausted, with a lifetime of toil and a head of white hair. Chani couldn't bring herself to look at me, she just shot me a quick, sidelong glance, then lowered her head and murmured uneasily, I'm looking for Brother Su. With that kind of demeanor, anyone who saw her would think there was something going on between her and Su Jinyan, but right now, I don't have time to play along with her little act. I didn't close the door. Then I stepped past her and went downstairs. I took the money, got on my bike, and headed out, relying on memory and asking several people along the way. I finally made it to the train station just before 10 o'clock. It's the holiday season, so the train station was bustling with people, and there were long lines at the ticket counters. I picked a line that was relatively shorter and started waiting. It wasn't until almost noon, when the staff were about to go off duty, that my turn finally came, but when it was my turn, there were no more seats left for my destination. Without a moment's hesitation, I paid for a standing ticket on an earlier train. After getting the ticket, I carefully tucked it close to my body for safekeeping, and only then did I hop on my bike and head back. When I got home, I was half expecting to find a pair of star-crossed lovers pouring their hearts out to each other. But as soon as I opened the door, I saw Su Jinyan sitting in the living room. His bedroom door was wide open, as if left that way on purpose. Seeing me return, Su Jinyan opened his mouth to say something, but I just turned and walked straight into the kitchen. I was feeling a bit peckish anyway. Time to make lunch. During lunch, I noticed Su Jinyan seemed to want to explain something, but since I remained silent, he seemed to hold his tongue. Finally, he couldn't hold back any longer and looked up at me. Yuehua, about earlier, I picked at the rice in my bowl and said flatly, don't talk while we're eating. Su Jinyan choked back his words, swallowing what he was about to say. I sneered inwardly. Back when we were together, I was usually the one doing all the chattering, but more often than not, his response to the topics I deliberately brought up was always lukewarm and indifferent, or he'd just say, don't talk while you're eating. I used to feel ashamed, thinking I wasn't well brought up. It was only later that I realized, it was the wrong person. Anything you say is wrong from the start. I don't really care what Su Jinyan ultimately wanted to say. After the meal, I returned to my room. The room was filled with the bright red paper cuttings, window decorations, and red quilt covers I had gradually bought after the engagement was settled. I gathered all these items together, piling them high on the bed. Looking at these things, which I had once selected with such joyful anticipation in my past life, I silently found a large bag and began packing them all away. My cousin's wedding is at the end of the year, and my uncle's family isn't very well off. It's a real shame to let these things go to waste, considering the money that was spent on them, so I packed everything up, planning to take it all over to my cousin tomorrow. A knock came at the door, and my hand stilled as I was sorting through the items. Yuehua, about the jewelry. Could we postpone buying it for a few days? A comrade of mine is in a bit of a bind and needs help urgently. Su Jinyan's voice came from outside the door. Shopping for jewelry. I was taken aback for a moment before I remembered. In my past life, around this time, Su Jinyan had told me he would take me to buy some jewelry. I remember waiting at home all day, my heart brimming with joy. But in the end, Su Jinyan never came back, and of course, the jewelry was never bought. I gave a faint ahm and went back to packing my things. It's not like he was coming back anyway, so it didn't matter how I responded. I waited a moment by the door before finally hearing the footsteps fade away. I simply went back to sorting through my own belongings. I haven't been living here for very long, and I don't have much of my own stuff. A single suitcase was just about enough to pack it all. What's really giving me a headache are the clothes I rarely wear. When I moved in, I figured since we were getting married soon anyway, I went ahead and brought over a large portion of my wardrobe from home. Looking back now, that was a real miscalculation, so I had to find another big bag, fold the clothes neatly, bundle them up, and take them home first. When I went downstairs, I saw that Su Jinyan had already taken the bicycle. I had no choice but to heave the heavy bag of clothes onto my shoulder and walk for over half an hour before finally getting home. When my mom saw me, she thought Su Jinyan and I had broken up. To avoid affecting my plans for university, I had to keep this matter to myself for the time being. I just said I needed to buy a lot of new clothes these days, and since there's no room for them there, I brought them back first. My mom finally breathed a sigh of relief. Otherwise, if my mom found out I was planning to break off the engagement with Su Jinyan, she'd probably chase me down the street with a knife. That's right, chasing after me to give me a piece of his mind. My parents, and Su Jinyan's parents worked at the same state-owned enterprise, so you could say he and I have known each other since we were kids. it's just that Soo Jinyan was always the golden child everyone talked about. Top grades as a kid, a great career as an adult, and looks that were second to none in our circle. My mom had always been quite fond of Soo Jinyan anyway. Later, a matchmaker tried to set me up. When Soo Jinyan's parents heard about it, they immediately thought it was a great idea and felt that he and I would actually be a good match. At first, I thought he wouldn't be interested in me because Soo Jinyan was both handsome and had a good career. To my surprise, my mom came back a few days later and excitedly told me that Soo Jinyan was actually quite taken with me. That's when I started getting to know him, little by little. Over the next 6 months, our relationship progressed by leaps and bounds. Then, just a month ago, our parents officially settled our marriage arrangement. My mom said right then that a son-in-law as wonderful as Soo Jinyan is a once-in-a-lifetime find. She told me, the incredibly lucky one, to hold on to him tight. Or else I'd have her to answer to. To be honest, in the early days with Soo Jinyan, I was in a complete daze. I never imagined I would become his wife. Occasionally, I could sense Soo Jinyan's mind wandering when he was with me, but I chalked it up to him being busy with work. Little did I know, behind my back, Soo Jinyan had been wavering between me and Chani even before we got married. Maybe it's just because I'm the right fit, or perhaps it's because both sets of parents approved of me. Which is why he ultimately chose me. Honestly, at this point, the only thing standing between him and me is filing the marriage paperwork. Back when I was taking my college entrance exams, he had me move in first so he could take care of me more easily, and now, I've taken back the marriage application form as well. So, of course, that's the end of things between him and me. Stepping out of my house, feeling unburdened and free, I found myself in a rare, leisurely mood. I bought an ice pop from a street vendor and slowly ambled my way back. Even at this time, many street vendors were already setting up stalls in secret, risking the label of profiteering or speculation. I also knew that in this era, these unassuming street vendors were among the first to become 10,000 yuan households. But I had to go to university, so I could only watch these soon-to-be wealthy vendors with envy, all while contributing to their path to riches. Just as I was nearing my doorstep, my attention was suddenly caught by the figures of a man and a woman. Brother Sue, please don't. No, I really can't accept this. Chani's voice trembled, on the verge of tears, sounding utterly pitiful. Soo Jinyan, with one hand steadying his bicycle, used the other to firmly press the money into her hand. If I'm giving it to you, you take it. If I kept this money, I'd only end up spending it on nonsense anyway. Here. This should cover your living expenses for most of the year. That's a much more meaningful use for it. As the two of them were jostling, Chani seemed to spot me. Her face went pale with shock, and she instinctively stepped in front of Soo Jinyan. There's really nothing going on between us. Please don't get the wrong idea. And, it was me being shameless, pestering Brother Sue. If you're going to blame anyone, blame me. The girl before me had a sallow complexion. In her pitiable, delicate state, there was a grim, fatalistic resolve. What she didn't see was Soo Jinyan, who she had instinctively shielded behind her, staring at me with a face drained of all color. I twisted the new bracelet on my wrist, walked right past them, and didn't even spare them a glance. What a damn nuisance. Even just walking down the street, I had to run into someone I didn't want to see. Not long after I got home, Soo Jinyan pushed the door open and walked in. When he saw me, a flicker of something other than his usual aloofness finally crossed his face. Yuehua, let me explain. I looked at him coolly. Alright, go ahead. The truth is, I wouldn't care what he said, but seeing that I wasn't furious and still seemed approachable, he finally let out an unconscious sigh of relief. I knew you wouldn't overthink it. I sneered inwardly. He seemed to gather his thoughts for a moment before saying earnestly, it's not what it looked like. I looked at him coolly. Saying nothing, I got hurt once, and I ran into her on the way to the hospital. She helped bandage me up and then came with me. He glanced at me cautiously and continued, on the following few occasions when I went to the hospital to change my bandages, I just so happened to run into her every time. What a coincidence. She happened to be a nursing student. I thought it was the perfect chance to get a little practice in. Too many coincidences stop being coincidental. They become deliberate. I don't believe for a second that a grown man like Soo Jinyan wouldn't see through that. It's just feigning ignorance while fully aware of the truth. Oh, so spending that money on jewelry for me was just a frivolous waste, not worth it. Spending it on her is more meaningful. Even though I didn't care anymore, I still couldn't resist taking a jab at him when I spoke. Soo Jinyan's expression changed. Looking somewhat flustered, that's not what I meant. Whether it was or not, he knew the truth in his own heart. Besides, to be honest, it makes no real difference to me. I thought for a moment and said earnestly, actually, have you ever considered that we could still call off the engagement? I couldn't help but say, because if he were the one to call off the engagement, at the very least, my mother wouldn't resort to all the hysterics and emotional blackmail with me. Besides, in our previous life, he also grew increasingly distant after submitting the marriage report. He must have regretted it. If we can break off the engagement now, it would actually be for the best, for both him and me. To my surprise, Su Jinyan frowned upon hearing my words. Is marriage a game? He said. How can you just call it off on a whim, Comrade Yuehua? That kind of thinking is incorrect. Stop, I get it, I said, raising my hands in surrender, not wanting to argue with him any further. I simply retreated to my own room. Rather than waste time listening to his lecture, I'd be better off calming down and thinking carefully about which stock to buy next to make a killing. As for the money, I'll just have to use the funds my parents gave me for now. My parents were so pleased with Su Jinyan that for our wedding, they practically handed over their life savings. In my past life, my parents gave me the entire bride price from the Su family and used it to buy a lot of furniture and appliances for us. Thankfully, that money is still with me now, and I haven't had a chance to spend it all yet. I took out the suitcase, retrieved all the betrothal money the Su family had given, and carefully wrapped it in a separate handkerchief. The money from my parents, however, I carefully put away again. Returning it is out of the question. I'll just consider it my seed money. If my mother makes a fuss about it later, I'll just slap the money right in front of her. For the sake of the money, I figure she probably won't get too angry, right? The next morning, the first thing I did was add a mark to the old poster. 8 more days. In 8 more days, I can finally get out of here. What are you writing? A low voice suddenly came from behind me. I was startled, and when I turned around, I saw Su Jinyan standing right behind me. He looked at me with confusion and asked, "What are you writing in the newspaper?" He was so close, his head slightly lowered, his breath brushing against the back of my ear. I shivered and quickly stepped away. That's disgusting. I had intended to brush it off, but seeing him still stubbornly focused on the newspaper, I had no choice but to hastily come up with an excuse. I was calculating how many days it's been since you submitted your marriage report. Perhaps something I said had pleased Su Jinyan in some way I couldn't pinpoint. The look of confusion, even a hint of unease, on his face suddenly melted away. He let out a sigh of relief and brought his hands out from behind his back. In them was a small, square velvet box. Open it, Su Jinyan said, looking at me with a touch of anticipation. Well, it's just strange, really. In my past life, I was married to Su Jinyan for 50 years. We raised our son together and saw for elderly family members to their final rest. Yet, he never once bought me a single piece of jewelry. My eyes fell on the velvet box, and a sense of irony, for no particular reason, washed over me. What's wrong? Go ahead and open it, Su Jinyan urged once more. I took a deep breath and pushed the item back. Take this back. You can give it to me on the day our marriage application gets approved, I said flatly. Except, waiting for that marriage application to be approved would take a lifetime. It's just not possible anymore. A faint smile touched the corner of my lips. Su Jinyan looked at the box in his hand and sighed. All right, I'll keep it for now. I'll give it to you the day our marriage application is approved. I have to admit, I could tell Su Jinyan was a little disappointed. It's genuinely hurtful when you give a gift with all your heart, only for the other person to not even spare it a glance. But, so what, compared to the secrets he kept from me and the pain he caused in my past life, it's nothing compared to the real thing. Su Jinyan was heading out after breakfast. Before he left, he told me he'd come back early in the evening to take me to the movies. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. I just watched him walk out the door. After Su Jinyan left, I went back to my room, brought out the things I had packed the day before, and left a note in the living room saying I was going to my uncle's house for a few days. By the time I arrived in the neighboring town by bus, it was already noon. My uncle and aunt didn't know I was coming. Seeing me walk in with a large bundle on my back, they quickly put down their bowls and chopsticks and came to greet me. When Grandma saw me, she hugged me tightly and wouldn't let go, calling me her precious darling. To be honest, I was overjoyed to see my grandmother again, who had passed away so early in my previous life. Grandma only had 2 children, and her affection for me was always far greater than what she showed my cousins. So on this visit, besides bringing back all the wedding items I had packed away yesterday, I also brought Grandma a good supply of nutritional supplements. After chatting for a while, my uncle quietly slipped away to catch and kill a chicken. I knew there was no stopping him, so I just let him be. When my aunt saw the bundle on my back, She thought I was fleeing some disaster, but when I opened it and she saw what was inside, she was left speechless for a long moment. I said with a smile to the stunned group, "My mom told me to bring this back. If you want to thank someone, go thank her. Besides, I'm going to face my mom's wrath when I leave anyway. What's one more thing on the pile?" I said to myself, feeling a bit guilty. When they heard it was my mom who had asked me to bring it back, they finally relaxed. However, my aunt was still a bit uneasy, mainly because there was just so much of it, but my grandmother was more easygoing about it. With a wave of her hand, she said, "What's the big deal? It's for her niece's wedding. It's not too much to give, put it away, put it away." Then, with a smile, she looked at me and said, "Now that our Yuehwa's marriage is settled, you, as her uncles and aunts, just need to be a bit more generous with the dowry." My uncle and aunt finally nodded with smiles. I was having a wonderful time at my grandmother's house. At night, I'd squeeze into the same quilt with my cousin to chat, and during the day, I'd eagerly wait for Grandma to cook all sorts of delicious treats for me. My uncle and aunt didn't have regular jobs. My aunt sold baked sweet potatoes and the like at the factory gate, while my uncle mostly took on odd jobs. That day, while helping my aunt sell sweet potatoes on the street, I noticed the neighboring stall selling hair accessories was doing good business. I asked my aunt why she didn't switch to selling those instead. To my surprise, my aunt just shook her head. She said she had no supplier, and besides, getting stock would cost a lot of money. On top of that, she'd have to deal with being chased around by authorities all day. She didn't have the nerve for it. I thought it over and quietly tucked the idea away in my mind. In their past life, my uncle and aunt had a very hard time, their hair turning gray prematurely from the struggle, but they've always been so good to me. Now that I'm back, if I can, I'm determined to help lift them out of poverty. Who knows, they might even become a 10,000 yuan household one day. Once I understood my aunt's mindset, I started casually mentioning in front of her how great and profitable setting up a street stall could be, with me going on about it every day. My aunt has found herself watching the business at those stalls lately. She's even started asking me things like whether a stall really makes more money than selling baked sweet potatoes. I could tell my aunt was getting interested. Now it was just a matter of waiting for the right opportunity. Once we found a supplier, I figured my aunt wouldn't be so resistant to setting up a stall anymore. It was already a week later by the time I got back from my grandmother's house. I had deliberately stayed at my grandmother's for a whole week this time. After all, once I leave for school out of town, it won't be so easy to see them again. During those days, I made a point of buying something from the neighboring stall every day. I finally managed to get the supplier's location out of the woman running it. Then, my aunt, my cousin, and I went to stock up on a batch of goods. Sold them for a couple of days, and only then did I feel reassured enough to come back. After putting away the things I brought back from Grandma's house, I collapsed onto the bed. I woke up to find the sky had already grown dark. The moment I stepped out of my room, I was greeted by the unmistakable, savory aroma of a home-cooked meal. I was about to say something when I saw the two of them in the kitchen, chatting and laughing. The girl's characteristically soft, gentle voice drifted out from the kitchen. I leaned casually against the doorframe, watching the two of them, so when Chenyi came out carrying a bowl of food and saw me leaning there, she let out a shriek, and the plate in her hand crashed to the floor. Su Jinyan rushed out in a frantic hurry, but the moment he saw me, his face turned deathly pale. After a moment of silence, I had no choice but to speak up. "What a cozy scene you two have here. Should I give you two some space?" Su Jinyan finally snapped out of it, instinctively taking a large step back. "Sister Yuehua, you're back." Chenyi bit her lip, shot a wounded look at Su Jinyan, then turned a gaze tinged with resentment toward me. I found it amusing. "Oh, do I need your permission to come back here?" The moment I finished speaking, Chenyi took 2 steps back, tears streaming down her face as if they cost nothing. Her lips trembled. "Sister Yuehua, you know that's not what I meant." Before I could say a word, Su Jinyan frowned again. "Yuehua, what are you saying?" "I was only concerned because Yi is studying here all alone, with no one to look after her, and with you not home, I can't eat much by myself anyway. That's why I invited her over to share the meal." "Stop making a scene, huh?" Seeing the man instinctively step in front of Chenyi, I didn't hesitate for a second before slapping him. Su Jinyan was stunned. It seemed he had never imagined I would actually lay a hand on him. Past him, I saw Chenyi's lips curl into a smirk, her gaze fixed on me with open provocation. I let out a cold, derisive laugh. Under their watchful eyes, he picked up the pen from the table and began to write, stroke by deliberate stroke, with heavy pressure. He filled in all the missing strokes on the old poster. Just 2 strokes left to go. "That's the day after tomorrow, the day after tomorrow." I can finally leave this place and never have to lay eyes on that utterly disgusting pair again. After Chinyi left, Su Jinyan looked at the tally marks I had made and found them profoundly unsettling. I can't quite put my finger on why, but something just feels off. He instinctively looked my way. Yuehua. I turned to look at him, my face expressionless. Su Jinyan paused. There's really nothing between me and I didn't want to say anything more to him and simply picked up my chopsticks to eat. Seeing that I didn't seem inclined to elaborate, Su Jinyan fell silent. After the meal, as I was tidying up the things I'd brought back from my grandmother's house, he suddenly remarked, "By the way, Yuehua, why is there so much less in your room? I thought you had prepared a lot of things for the wedding." When I didn't respond, Su Jinyan seemed inexplicably flustered. "I was thinking," he said. "Since our marriage application has already been submitted, we could start decorating the place bit by bit. I saw you bought those paper cuttings and stickers earlier, hand them over, and I'll start putting them up." I scoffed. "Stickers, my foot, if you want stickers, go get them from my cousin." But to avoid a pointless argument with him, I just said, "It's still early, let's talk about it in a few days." Seeing that I had spoken, Su Jinyan thought the matter was settled. He visibly let out a sigh of relief. The next morning, to my surprise, Su Jinyan had already made breakfast. After eating, he didn't just leave on his own. I ignored him, picked up the pen on the table, and solemnly made another note. "Wonderful, the last day, finally, at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, I'll be able to leave this place." Seeing me record it so earnestly, Su Jinyan smiled and said, "Don't worry, the marriage report should be approved very soon." I didn't look at him and started clearing the dishes. "Why haven't you left yet today?" Su Jinyan smiled at me. "Since we're getting married soon, I was thinking I should take you shopping for some clothes." My hands froze as I was tidying up. His words were a sudden reminder. I'm about to start college. It's time to buy a couple of new outfits and begin this new chapter. I went back to my room to get some money, seeing that I didn't refuse. Su Jinyan subconsciously let out a sigh of relief this time. However, in the end, those clothes never got bought. The moment we stepped outside, we saw Chinyi leaning against the wall. It looked as if she had been keeping vigil all night. Su Jinyan, startled, gave her a gentle shake, and Chinyi opened her eyes. Seeing us together, apparently about to head out, she instinctively stood up and looked at me. "I'm sorry, Sister Yuehua. About yesterday, Chinyi squinted at me. Then suddenly her eyes closed and she collapsed into Su Jinyan's arms. Su Jinyan's face changed, and he shook the person in his arms. Without a word, I crouched down and pressed hard on the philtrum beneath Chinyi's nose. Chinyi gave a slight shiver, but stubbornly refused to wake up. I couldn't help but admire Chinyi's composure. Seeing that I seemed ready to try again, Su Jinyan's arms holding Chinyi stiffened for a moment. Then he shifted her away from my reach. "She's malnourished and severely anemic. I'm taking her to the hospital." Su Jinyan ran out, clutching the person's head. Without so much as a backward glance, I closed the door and followed at a leisurely pace. I watched as Su Jinyan, after the doctor had left, began keeping a tense vigil at the bedside. I walked over. Su Jinyan paused when he saw me, a frown creasing his brow. "What are you doing here?" he said. I took a careful look at the person lying in the bed. To be honest, she wasn't much to look at. Malnourishment had left her gaunt, with prominent cheekbones that gave her a rather severe, almost harsh appearance. I looked up at Su Jinyan again. Maybe this is just his type. Under my gaze, Su Jinyan instinctively averted his eyes. I looked at the two of them calmly and said, "The day you submitted the marriage report, she jumped into the river." My words must have been too shocking, because not only did the person on the bed jolt violently, even Su Jinyan instinctively shot to his feet, the chair behind him clattering to the floor. He blurted out, "What?" I continued. "You gave her the money you were supposed to use to buy me jewelry. You said if you bought it for me, the money would just be spent frivolously, but if you gave it to her, she could live off it for half a year." I raised my hand, cutting him off. What he had to say no longer mattered. "While I was away, you brought her into our home. You let her cross the threshold." Su Jinyan's lips parted, but I raised my hand again to silence him. Then I turned my gaze to the bed. "You know she's faking it, and yet you're prepared to stay here with her all night." I refused to believe that Su Jinyan, a military man, could be so blind as to not see right through her fainting spell. "It's simply a case of mutual affection. If you don't wish to marry, you can call off the engagement," I said calmly, looking at the two of them once more. "But you have no right to humiliate me like this." It seemed the mention of breaking the engagement finally rattled Su Jinyan. "No," he said in a panic, "I won't call it off." I glanced at the person on the bed. Even now, they're still keeping up the act. What a master of endurance. But if she hadn't been so patient, she wouldn't have won Su Jinyan over in her past life. Su Jinyan was still explaining. I just felt sorry for her, that's all. She has no other family, I saw she didn't even have money for food, so I just thought I should help if I could. We're all comrades here, we should help each other out. Su Jinyan's voice was raised, as if he were trying desperately to convince himself. I saw the person on the bed, a tear tracing its way down from the corner of their eye. TSK. I shook my head. Have it your way, I'm leaving. I reached the doorway when Su Jinyan's voice called out from behind me, you go on ahead. I'll catch up in a bit. Of course, I didn't take his words to heart. I went and bought 2 new outfits, then made a point of waiting for my parents to finish work so we could all go to the state-run restaurant for a proper meal. It wasn't until evening that I finally made my way back to where I was staying. Everything in the house that needed to be put away has been put away, and everything meant to be sent out has been sent. Yet, Su Jinyan still hadn't returned, even past 11 o'clock. As for me, I had already finished writing the letter of complaint to be sent to Chenyi's school. Consider it a token of gratitude for her diligent efforts in keeping me company by my bedside for those few days in my past life. As for Su Jinyan, out of consideration for our parents' relationship, I had no choice but to let it go for now, but the engagement must be called off. I wrote down all the details of his entanglement with Chenyi during this period and dropped the letter in the mailbox overnight. I expect my mother will receive the letter tomorrow or the day after. Early the next morning, after washing up, I stood before the old poster once more and carefully added the final stroke. Then, hoisting my bundle, I left that place without a backward glance. On the train, it took half a day before I finally managed to get a seat. Watching the crowds ebb and flow on the platform, I knew each person there was about to embark on a new journey, and so do I. Su Jinyan, side story, Yuehua just vanished from my life, just like that. Everything in the room was gone, she didn't even leave me a single word. Well, if I had to say, there was something, it was those 2 tally marks on the poster in the room. I only just realized it now. They weren't marking the day I submitted my marriage report, but rather, the day she was to leave. It was only later that I found out Yuehua had gone to retrieve our marriage application on the very day I submitted my report. She had even neatly placed the bride price my family gave into a drawer. It was 3 days later that his parents came to visit, together with mine. That was when I realized just how much Yuehua resented Chenyi. But why couldn't she give me one last chance? Yuehua said she was faking her illness, as if I didn't already know that, so I thought to myself. Once she's discharged this time, I'll definitely cut off all contact with her. I wouldn't upset Yuehua for her sake, yet she didn't even give me that chance and left resolutely. I pleaded with her parents not to call off the engagement. I will make Yuehua change her mind, I'm sure of it. But her parents just shook their heads, gave me a disappointed look, and left. I sat there in a daze, in the place where she once lived. This is where her presents used to be. I instinctively opened the cabinet where she used to keep the wedding quilt, only to find everything inside was gone, too. That's when I sank to the floor. So it was true, she had been planning how to leave me all along. The realization hit me, belatedly. Later, Chenyi suddenly showed up at my door. She said she had been reported, the school had expelled her. I just looked at her silently, without saying a word. She pleaded with me, asking if I could help her, if I could take her in for a while. I silently pushed her away. How could I? My Yuehua left because of her. If I were to have even the slightest connection with her again, then for the rest of my life, there would be no chance for Yuehua and me. Chenyi couldn't accept it. She knew Yuehua was gone. She started pestering me here, but I was soon transferred to another post. With Yuehua no longer here, there was simply no point in me staying. I still remember when I was little, my parents took me to visit a family, a little girl. She was always clinging to me. She loved to follow me around, listening to my stories, and loved to laugh and throw herself into my arms. Then, she grew up. A matchmaker came to my door, saying they wanted to set me up. I really wasn't in the mood for that, but when I heard the other person's name, I somehow found myself agreeing. After that, things went very smoothly between us. She became my fiancé, but, now, everything has come to nothing. After I was transferred to the Southern Military District, I wrote to her, but she never wrote back, not once. I once went to see her in secret. She's grown taller, and her hair is longer too, and she's become a lot more beautiful than before. She also has a few good friends by her side, but I don't dare let her see me. Eventually, the time came for her to graduate from university. I secretly bought a house, thinking that if she agreed to forgive me, I would propose to her right away. I had been looking forward to this for so long. And I rushed over with a bouquet of roses, but what I saw was another man standing by her side. Later, I heard she got married right after graduating from university, then, she had a daughter. I also heard she made a fortune from stock trading, and then, well, I wasted my entire life. On my deathbed, I seemed to glimpse a different life I could have lived. I saw myself marrying Yuehua. I saw us having children of our own. But then, I saw Chenyi again, seeing my middle-aged self. I was finally moved by Chenyi and tacitly accepted that she had adopted a child. I tacitly accepted her child calling me dad, and from then on, I tacitly accepted her staying by that version of my side. But, wait, what else did I see? I saw Chenyi actually standing by Yuehua's hospital bed, spouting that awful nonsense. I reached out to stop her, but I couldn't do a thing. Amidst a series of beeping sounds, I jolted awake, my head heavy and my steps unsteady. I saw Yuehua come out of the secretary's office, a piece of paper in her hand tossed into the trash can. My heart ached, and I hurried after her. I thought to myself, surely I can change the course of my life, right? The beep sound continued. Story 2, on our wedding anniversary. My husband Lu Sai told me he had an urgent mission with his military unit. I smiled and saw him off. Then immediately turned around and activated the GPS tracker in his car. The location data showed he wasn't headed to the military district, but to the city's top maternity hospital. I hacked into the hospital's surveillance system. In the scene, he was carefully supporting a delicate woman, his eyes filled with a tenderness I had never seen before. The woman touched her belly and asked sweetly, "Sai, have you thought of a name for the baby?" Lu Sai said, "Let's call her Nyanan." To commemorate our love, my heart turned to ice. Just then, my phone rang. It was a call from the military district headquarters, inquiring about Lu Sai's whereabouts. Watching the lovey-dovey pair on the surveillance feed, I hit the speakerphone button and answered calmly, reporting, "Sir, I suspect my husband, Colonel Lu Sai of the Special Forces, may have absconded with classified military intelligence." That single sentence froze both the commanding officer on the line and Lu Sai on the monitor in their tracks. Over the phone, the voice of Lu Sai's direct superior, Political Commissar Zhou, instantly turned grave. "Comrade Su Wan, say that again." On the surveillance monitor, Lu Sai's phone also began to ring. He saw the caller ID, his face changed abruptly. He frantically hung up and, without a second thought, lunged toward me. I didn't answer, I just held the phone and repeated myself, word for word, with perfect clarity, reporting, "Sir, Lu Sai left home today citing an urgent mission, but he was spotted at the municipal maternity hospital. His movements are highly suspicious, and he is refusing to answer secure military lines. I suspect he may be attempting to defect." My voice was quiet, but it landed like a thunderclap. There was a full 5 seconds of silence from Commissar Zhou on the other end of the line. "Comrade Su Wan, stay where you are, don't move. Keep yourself safe, we're on our way." The order was concise and decisive. I hung up the phone and silently watched the surveillance feed. In the scene, Lu Sai was completely panicked. He abandoned the woman named Bai Wei, frantically calling me while rushing towards the hospital entrance. Bai Wei called out pitifully behind him, "Sai, where are you going? Our baby." He didn't even look back. All the tenderness and patience vanished from his eyes, leaving only panic and agitation. But it was already too late. In under 10 minutes, several olive-green military SUVs roared onto the scene, blocking the hospital's exits. Heavily armed soldiers leapt from the vehicles, their movements swift and their presence intimidating. They stormed into the hall and zeroed in on their target with chilling precision. "Colonel Lu Sai, you're coming with us." The dark, gaping muzzles of their guns were trained on him. Lu Sai raised his hands, his face as pale as a sheet of paper. 2 soldiers forced his arms behind his back and marched him out. As he passed the entrance to the hall, he saw me. I stood just outside the glass door, watching him coldly, his pupils contracted sharply, as if he had seen the most unbelievable thing. "Su Wan," he roared, his face twisted with rage, "you're insane, what the hell are you doing?" "I'm innocent," I just sneered coldly. "Oh, I know you're innocent, you didn't defect. You were just with your mistress, picking out a name for your little bastard. While I was planning our anniversary surprise, you just cheated while I was pregnant. But why should I explain it for you? When you were wearing that uniform, lying to me and to the organization, did it never occur to you that it would come to this?" The soldiers gave him no chance to continue his rant, roughly shoving him into the vehicle. The woman named Bai Wei was also taken away under protective custody, trembling with fear. She suddenly lunged at me like a madwoman as she passed by. "It's you. You're the one who harmed Sai, you vicious woman." 2 female soldiers swiftly intercepted her. I looked at her tear-streaked face and the slight swell of her abdomen. "Nyanan," I softly uttered 2 words. Bai Wei's face instantly turned deathly pale. to commemorate your love, right? I laughed until tears welled up in my eyes. What a fitting name. The surrounding clamor meant nothing to me. The world faded into shades of gray before my eyes. Lucy. The game is on, you destroyed my love. So I'll destroy everything you're proud of, too. I was taken back to the military compound, not as a family member, but as a key complainant. I was received by Political Commissar Zhou, a man nearing 50 who commanded respect without needing to raise his voice. He personally poured me a cup of hot water. Comrade Su Wan, don't be nervous. Tell us in detail what you discovered today. I held the cup of water, my hand steady. Today is the 3rd anniversary of my marriage to Lucy. This morning, he said he had an urgent mission with his unit and rushed out the door. I knew something was off right then. What's wrong? Political Commissar Zhou pressed. He wasn't in uniform, and he was driving a private car. What's more, as he was leaving, I saw a piece of paper fall from his pocket. It was an appointment slip from the municipal maternity hospital. I pulled a crumpled slip of paper from my pocket. Of course, this wasn't the slip he dropped. I'd fished it out of the trash can in his study. He thought he had covered his tracks perfectly. Little did he know, ever since my pregnancy made my sense of smell unnaturally sharp, I had caught the scent of another woman's perfume on him. From that day on, I was no longer myself. I became a hunter. Political Commissar Zhou took the document, his expression growing increasingly grim. Why did you suspect him of defecting? That was the crucial question. I lowered my gaze, letting a perfectly measured tremor and hint of grievance seep into my voice. He's been acting very strange lately, taking encrypted calls in the dead of night, sneaking around to use a separate computer in his study. When I asked him about it, he just said it was classified military business. As a military wife, I understand discipline. I know there are things I shouldn't ask about, but today, he lied to me, said he was on a mission. Instead, he was at the hospital with another woman for her prenatal checkup. Commissar, if he dares to lie to the organization itself, what wouldn't he do? What I said was a mix of truth and lies. It's true he has another computer, but he only uses it to play games with his mistress. He did get calls in the middle of the night, but that was just his pregnant mistress calling to whine about her morning sickness and seek his comfort. I saw it all clearly through the home security cameras, but I can't say that. I need to muddy the waters. Commissar Zhou's brow furrowed into a deep frown. Do you know the woman he was with? No, I shook my head, but I hacked into the hospital system and found her name. It's by way, you know how to hack. Political Commissar Zhou was surprised. My major in university was cybersecurity. I replied calmly, this is my trump card. I can not only hack into the hospital system, but I can also recover all the deleted files and chat logs from his so-called gaming computer. Political Commissar Zhou fell silent, a special forces colonel, operating covertly, deceiving his organization, and maintaining close ties with a woman of unknown identity. His own wife, a cybersecurity expert, was the one who turned him in. Every single element of it was shocking enough. Comrade Su Wan, the information you provided is crucial. We will launch an investigation immediately. For your own safety, you'll need to stay at the military district guest house for the time being. I understand. I have just one request. Go on. I want a divorce from him. There wasn't a trace of hesitation in my voice. No matter what the investigation finds, I am getting this divorce. Political Commissar Zhou looked at me, his expression inscrutable. All right, the organization will support your reasonable requests. Stepping out of the office, the sunlight outside was brilliant, yet I only felt a chill. The phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. Su Wan, you bitch, how dare you ruin CE? My mother will make you pay for this. It was from Lucy's sister, Lu Cici. I deleted the message and blocked the number without a flicker of emotion. This is only the beginning. Right then, the phone rang. It was my mother-in-law. The moment I answered, a torrent of abuse came pouring down the line. Su Wan, what on earth were you thinking? What has CE ever done to deserve this from you? You're nothing but a jinx. I never should have agreed to this marriage in the first place. I listened quietly, waiting for her to tire herself out before speaking in a calm, measured tone. Mom, hold off on the lecture for a second. You might want to start worrying about your unborn grandson instead. The line went dead silent. What are you saying? Lucy is at the hospital for a prenatal checkup with the woman he's cheating with. The baby's already 3 months along. Oh, and they've even picked out a name, Nianen, to commemorate their love. With every word I spoke, I could picture my haughty mother-in-law on the other end of the line, the color draining from her face. You're lying. Impossible. My son would never do such a thing, she shrieked. You'll find out soon enough. I hung up the phone and let out a long, deep sigh. The knot of pent-up frustration in my chest seemed to loosen a little. Lucy, Do you really think your family has your back? Soon, they will become yet another straw that breaks your back. 3. I settled into the military district guest house. It was called a guest house, but the security was top-notch, with sentries posted at the entrance around the clock. I understand. This is both protection and a form of surveillance. Until Lu Sai's suspicions are cleared, I, as the first person to report the case, am also restricted in my movements. Perfect, that suits me just fine. I need an absolutely secure and quiet environment to prepare for my next move. The investigation team came to see me the very next day. This time, besides Commissar Zhou, there were 2 middle-aged men I didn't recognize. They were in plain clothes, but their demeanor was sharp. They were from the security department, specifically tasked with internal investigations. Comrade Su Wan. We have reviewed the hospital surveillance footage and conducted preliminary interrogations of Lu Sai and Bai Wei. Lu Sai insists his actions were merely a lapse in personal conduct and that he panicked out of guilt towards you. One of the men spoke, his tone measured, but his eyes fixed on me like a hawk's. Bai Wei also said that her relationship with Lu Sai was purely romantic, and she knew nothing about his work. Is that so? I raised an eyebrow slightly. A purely romantic relationship. I took a USB drive from my bag and placed it on the table. This contains all the data I recovered from Lu Sai's so-called gaming computer, including every chat log between him and Bai Wei from the moment they met, every single transfer he made to her, and even the records of his improper conduct in using his position to apply for a temporary military family housing unit on her behalf. The expressions on the faces of the 3 people at the table changed instantly. Political Commissar Zhou's face was a mask of shock and fury. The 2 men from the security department wore expressions of undisguised gravity. A personal conduct issue is entirely different in nature from abusing one's authority to secure improper benefits for a lover. The former is a matter of personal moral corruption, while the latter is a serious disciplinary violation, a stain on the uniform. In the chat logs, Bai Wei repeatedly complained to Lu Sai, saying she felt unsafe living alone and envied that I could live within the military compound. I spoke with a calm detachment, as if recounting someone else's story. To placate her, Lu Sai lied, telling her he had already applied for a temporary special talent family member placement for her, and that she would be able to move into a residential compound not far from the military district soon. That compound, as I understand it, is specifically reserved for the families of servicemen with outstanding contributions and for imported talent, correct? My gaze settled on Political Commissar Zhou. Political Commissar Zhou's lips were pressed into a thin, tight line. He said nothing, but a vein throbbed visibly at his temple. The man from the security department immediately picked up the USB drive. We will verify this immediately. After they left, only Political Commissar Zhou and I remained in the office. Comrade Su Wan, he sighed, his voice heavy with exhaustion. You've been wronged. I shook my head. More than the wrongs done to me. I care about the honor of the uniform he wears. I meant every word of that. I married Lu Sai not just because I loved him, but because I admired him. I admired him as a soldier of unwavering integrity, a true hero who defended our homeland. But now, he has personally shattered all that admiration. The organization will not let a single scoundrel escape, nor will it ever wrong an innocent person. Political Commissar Zhou assured me. I nodded and stood up, ready to leave. Just as I reached the door, I stopped and turned around, as if something had suddenly occurred to me. A look of hesitation and uncertainty crossed my face. Commissar, there's something. I'm not sure if I should mention it. Go ahead. When I was looking into that woman, Bai Wei, I found out she has a brother named Bai Feng. This Bai Feng, he doesn't seem to be from our country. He has overseas connections. And in the chat logs, Bai Wei mentioned several times that her brother was intensely curious about Siye's work, always asking questions about special forces training and equipment. I chose my words very carefully, trying to come across as a regular family member who had stumbled upon a few clues by accident but was afraid of saying the wrong thing. At the time, I thought it was probably just familial curiosity and didn't pay it much mind, but looking back on it now, something just feels off. I'm afraid Lu Sai might be being used by this woman. My voice grew softer and softer, finally tinged with a sob. That sob was half an act, and half genuine, for my love that had died, and for the husband I was about to personally push into the abyss. Political Commissar Zhou shot up from his chair. The last trace of warmth vanished from his eyes, replaced by an unprecedented sharpness and vigilance. What's her brother's name? What country is he from? In that moment, the very nature of the situation changed completely. It started as a simple conduct issue, escalated to serious disciplinary violations involving abuse of power for personal gain, and now, It's a major suspicion that could threaten national security, Lu Sai. I've already maneuvered this game of chess into a checkmate for you. 4. My mother-in-law, Lu Xiuqin, has come looking for me after all. Unable to force her way into the guest house, she threw a tantrum right at the main gate. Suwan, you vicious, heartless woman, get out here. What sin did our Lu family commit to bring a jinx like you into our home? You're going to drive my son to his death. Her wails and curses could be heard clearly from dozens of meters away. When the sentry tried to stop her, she started clawing and scratching like a harpy. All the usual dignity of a military officer's family member gone, I stood by the second-floor window, watching the scene unfold with a cold detachment. Soon after, Comrade Political Commissar Zhou's orderly, Xiao Wang, knocked on my door. Sis, the commissar says you shouldn't go down, it wouldn't look good. We've already notified the Lu family's work unit to come and collect her. Xiao Wang looked rather awkward. It had been years since the military compound had witnessed such a disgraceful public outburst. It's fine, I said calmly, let her vent. If she doesn't do it now, she won't get another chance. Xiao Wang was taken aback, not quite grasping my meaning. I turned around, took a document from my bag, and handed it to him. Xiao Wang, could you please give this to her for me? It was a color printout of Bai Wei's prenatal checkup report. It clearly stated, 12 weeks pregnant, on the ultrasound scan. The tiny gestational sac was clearly visible. Xiao Wang hesitated for a moment, but took it anyway. Sis-in-law, you, go on. I cut him off. Some things, she needs to see for herself. Xiao Wang went downstairs, holding those few sheets of paper. I saw him hand the documents to Lu Xiuqin. At first, Lu Xiuqin refused to take them, all the while muttering curses under her breath. The moment her eyes landed on the words pregnancy test report, her movements froze. She snatched the papers and began to read. The world seemed to fall silent. The fury and madness on her face slowly faded, replaced first by shock, then by utter disbelief. Finally, as if all strength had been drained from her, she collapsed to the floor. The papers in her hand fluttered down, scattering all over the floor. She stopped crying and cursing, just sitting there in a daze, like a statue that had lost its soul. I drew the curtains. This farce had to end. What I gave Lu Xiuqin was the final straw that broke the camel's back. But what I gave the investigation team was the truly fatal blow. The lead concerning Bai Wei's brother, Bai Feng, caused a fundamental shift in the entire direction of the investigation. The security department immediately established a top-level special task force. Lu Sai was transferred from the standard interrogation room to a secret location, the name of which I never learned, for solitary confinement and investigation. All his lines of communication were severed, and he was denied any further contact with his family or his lawyer. He was reduced to a code name, a high-risk prisoner suspected of potential collaboration with the enemy. I knew then, he was finished. Regardless of whether they can ultimately prove his treason, the mere label of prime suspect is enough to end his military career for good. For a special forces colonel, losing the absolute trust of the organization is a fate worse than death. I've been inundated with phone calls these past few days. They were from Lu Sai's comrades in arms, his father's old subordinates, and all sorts of distant relatives you wouldn't normally hear from. Some of them hinted at it subtly, while others pleaded directly on Lu Sai's behalf. Suwan, even the closest couples have their spats. Why make such a big deal out of it? Sai just had a momentary lapse in judgment. Men, who doesn't make mistakes, give him a chance. By doing this, you're ruining his future. What good does it do you? What about the child's future? I paid no attention to any of it. That was until I received a call from someone I never expected. It was Lu Sai's father, a retired old general whose prestige remained undiminished. His voice was aged and weary. Suwan, we need to talk. 5. I arranged to meet Senior General Lu at a tea house near the military district. He looked at least 10 years older than the last time I saw him. His temples were streaked with gray, and the once straight line of his spine had begun to curve. I know everything that happened. He got straight to the point, his voice hoarse. That bastard deserves to die. I'm a bit surprised. I thought he would come to plead for Lu Sai's leniency, just like the others. I'm not here today to plead for him. He made a mistake, violated discipline, betrayed you, and betrayed the uniform he wears. He deserves to be punished. The old general looked at me, his clouded eyes filled with profound anguish. I just wanted to ask you one thing. That man named Bai Feng, is he really suspected of colluding with the enemy? My hand, holding the teacup, tightened. Dad, just call me Uncle Lu. He cut me off. I don't have the face to be your father anymore. My heart gave a painful squeeze. Uncle Lu, I don't know. I just reported my suspicions to the organization, exactly as I saw them. I met his gaze, my expression open and unflinching. I saw Bai Wei bragging to Lu Sai in their chat, saying her brother is an executive at a major tech company overseas and has access to a lot of cutting-edge technology. She also mentioned that her brother is very interested in Lu Sai's work and asked a lot of detailed questions about Special Forces daily training, tactical coordination, and even some non-standard equipment. Lu Sai reprimanded her on the spot, saying that kind of information is classified military intelligence and shouldn't be asked about casually, but Bai Wei just acted coy, saying her brother is just a military enthusiast and meant no harm. That made me suspicious, because on Lu Sai's computer, there really were some non-classified documents he'd brought home to work on, related to training and equipment optimization. I was worried that he might let his guard down because of this woman. This whole story is 90% truth, 1 part fabrication. A mix of truth and lies is what makes a story truly convincing. It's true that Bai Feng is overseas and has a genuine interest in military affairs, but those questions were more like the casual curiosity of an ordinary person, a far cry from actual military espionage. Yet, once they passed through my lips and got the artistic treatment, their meaning was completely twisted, especially given Lu Sai's prior infidelity and disciplinary violations. These suspicious points became utterly damning. The old General Lu fell silent, having spent his entire life in military service. His sensitivity to such matters far exceeded that of an ordinary person. He knew that once foreign connections and military intelligence probing were involved, there would be absolutely no room for maneuver. Even if it turns out to be a false alarm in the end, Lu Sai's political career is over for good. I understand. After a long silence, he let out a deep sigh, seeming to age several years in an instant. He brought this upon himself. Suwan, you've suffered all these years. He took a bank card from his pocket and slid it towards me. There's some money in here. It's not much, but consider it a small compensation from me and Shouqin. You're still young, with a child to raise. You have a long road ahead of you. I didn't reach for the card, Uncle Lu. I don't want money. I just want a divorce and custody of the child. The house and car under Sia's name are premarital assets. I won't touch them. I only want what's rightfully mine. I looked at him and said, enunciating every word, I want nothing. I just want to sever all ties with him, and with your entire Lu family. A glimmer of sorrow flickered in the old general's eyes. He gave a slow nod. All right, I agree. I'll have my lawyer draft the divorce papers as soon as possible and have him sign them. Stepping out of the tea house, he found the sky had already grown dark. My phone rang. It was Commissar Zhou. Comrade Suwan, the special task force has made new progress. We've found that Bai Feng, he does work for an American tech company, and that company has military ties. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't see that coming. I was just trying to muddy the waters. I never expected to actually hook a big fish. Not only that, we also discovered that Bai Feng recently purchased a batch of high-precision satellite data through illegal channels. The coverage area coincides precisely with the mountainous regions surrounding our military district. Commissar Zhou's voice was more serious than I had ever heard it. And that very mountain region was where Lu Sai's unit was scheduled to conduct live-fire exercises next month. I froze in place, my hands and feet turning to ice. Things seemed to be spiraling out of control, hurtling in a direction I was powerless to stop. 6. I thought I was just adding a baseless charge to Lu Sai's list of crimes. Little did I know, my casual accusation actually pointed out a hidden threat. Bai Feng's interest in military affairs was far from simple. He and the company behind him are attempting to steal intelligence on our military exercises. This discovery put the entire task force on high alert. The scrutiny of Lu Sai was immediately escalated to the highest level. He was no longer just a suspect, but was now classified as a high-priority target for recruitment. Investigators grilled him repeatedly, asking if he had leaked any information about the exercise's timing, location, objectives, or participating units under Bai Wei's influence. Lu Sai lost his mind. I learned through indirect channels that he was in the interrogation room, shouting over and over, insisting he knew nothing about the Bai Feng affair. He claimed he had only made the mistake any man in the world could make, and that he was no traitor. But no one believed him. A colonel in the special forces maintained a long-term, illicit relationship with a woman of complex background, even going so far as to deceive his organization and violate regulations for her sake. Given this overarching context, any defense he could offer rings hollow. Moreover, Bai Feng's purchase of satellite data for the exercise area is irrefutable evidence, and Bai Wei, as both Bai Feng's sister and Lu Sai's lover, became the crucial link connecting all these elements. After being taken into isolation for questioning, she quickly suffered a mental breakdown. She had no idea what her brother was up to. She was just a woman blinded by love, somewhat vain and foolish, under immense pressure. She confessed every single detail of her interactions with Lucy. This included how, under her brother's guidance, she had subtly probed for information about Lucy's work. By phone told her he just wanted to learn more about the heroic deeds of his future brother-in-law, and she believed him. She even sent her brother intimate photos of herself and Lucy, bragging about what an incredible man she had found. All the evidence formed a perfect, closed loop, a meticulously planned honey trap. Byway was the pawn, Lucy was the target, and I, the betrayed wife, through a twist of fate, became the whistleblower who exposed it all. Political Commissar Zhou personally came to have a talk with me. His attitude had shifted from initial sympathy to a solemn respect. Comrade Su Wan, on behalf of the military district, I wish to express our gratitude to you. Were it not for your vigilance and timely report, the consequences would have been unthinkable. He informed me that the State Security Department had intervened, launching covert arrests and counter-espionage operations against by phone and the forces behind him. Thanks to my report, we successfully thwarted a serious case of espionage. The party will see that you're commended for this, said Commissar Zhou. I sat there, utterly speechless. The situation had developed in a way I never could have anticipated. My intention had been revenge. A mutual destruction where we'd both be ruined. All I wanted was to destroy Lucy, to make him pay for his betrayal. But now, it seems I become the hero. The irony is almost too much to bear. And, what about Lucy? I asked, my voice thick with emotion. Political Commissar Zhou fell silent for a moment. While there is no evidence he actively leaked secrets, his poor judgment and associations as a senior officer allowed enemy agents to infiltrate and exploit him. This created an extremely serious risk of information compromise and had a severely damaging impact. His transgression is no longer a simple matter of disciplinary violation. He will face trial before a military tribunal. A military tribunal. Those 4 words crashed down on me like 4 colossal mountains. I knew then that Lucy's life was utterly, irrevocably over. A few days later, I received the divorce papers, signed by Lucy. His signature was a shaky scrawl, as if it had taken every last ounce of his strength. Along with the agreement, a letter was also delivered. The letter was written on the most ordinary manuscript paper, bearing only a single sentence. Su Wan, you've won. The handwriting was frantic and pressed deep into the page. I could almost picture the bloodshot eyes and utter despair in his gaze as he wrote those words. I put the letter and the divorce papers away in the drawer. Did we win? Maybe. I destroyed everything he was proud of, turning him from a golden boy into a prisoner. But my heart, why does it still feel so hollow? Just then, a knock came at my door. It was the guard, Xiao Wang. He had a strange look on his face. Sis-in-law, Comrade Su Wan, outside. Baiwei's mother is here. She says she'd like to see you. 7. Baiwei's mother was a plainly dressed, middle-aged woman. Her eyes were sunken, her hair was streaked with gray, and the moment she saw me, she dropped to her knees with a thud. Ms. Su, I'm begging you, please save our Xiaowei. She was weeping as if her heart would break, her forehead thudding rhythmically against the cold floor. She's just a foolish child. She doesn't know anything. It was all her damned brother's doing. She's been wronged. I watched her quietly, making no move to help her up. It's no use coming to me. I'm not part of the investigation, and I have no say in her fate. My voice was ice cold. I felt not a shred of sympathy for Baiwei, regardless of her innocence. The fact remains, she meddled in my marriage and tried to steal my husband. In an avalanche, no single snowflake feels responsible. No, you are useful. Everyone says you're the hero. You're the one who exposed this whole affair. Mother Bai looked up, her red-rimmed eyes clinging to one last shred of hope. If you would just say one word to the commander, tell him Xiaowei was deceived, that she was used, they're sure to go easy on her. Why on earth should I help her? I shot back, Mrs. Bai was stunned into silence. Because what's in her belly is a human life too, she cried out. She's still so young. Her life can't be ruined like this. She's young. But am I not young too? I looked at her and asked, enunciating each word slowly and clearly, the life in her womb is a human being, is the one in mine not? I gently placed my hand on my own flat stomach. Here, too, a vibrant life had once existed. On the night I discovered Lucy's infidelity, I went into premature labor and had to call an ambulance alone in the dead of night. I lost the baby. At that very moment, my husband Lucy was in a bed miles away, holding the mother of his Nianin, making promises about their future. I never told a soul. This is the deepest scar on my heart, the very root of all my hatred, Mrs. Bai's sobbing came to an abrupt halt. She stared at my belly in disbelief, her lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. When she destroyed my child, did she ever stop to think that he was a human life too? When Lu Sai deceived and betrayed me for her sake, did it ever cross his mind that I was his wife too? And now, what gives you the right to come here begging for my forgiveness, asking me to be the bigger person? My voice was quiet, yet every word cut to the bone. Leave, her fate is for the law to decide. As for me, I will never forgive her, Mrs. Bai was led away by the guards, utterly broken and desolate. I stood alone in the empty room, a chill seeping into my very bones. I walked to the window and looked out at the leaden, overcast sky. You see, Lu Sai, this is the woman you chose, and your foolish love, it didn't just destroy you, it destroyed her and her family as well. What you thought was true love was nothing but an elaborate scam and a reckless act of stupidity, and I was merely the one who pulled the trigger. A week later, the court-martial convened, due to the involvement of military secrets. The trial was conducted in secret. I attended as a key witness. In the courtroom, I saw Lu Sai once again. He wore a prison uniform, his hair shaved to a buzz cut, with cold handcuffs clamped around his wrists. In just over half a month, he had wasted away to a shadow of his former self. His eyes were sunken, and the lively spark that once animated them was gone, replaced by a deathly, ashen dullness. When his gaze swept over me, a flicker of fire ignited within those ash-gray eyes. It was hatred. A hatred so thick it was suffocating. I met his gaze calmly, my heart a placid lake. The judge read out the charges against him. There was no charge of treason. The investigation found no direct evidence that Lu Sai proactively disclosed classified information to Bai Feng. However, the litany of his transgressions, each and every one, is enough to condemn him utterly. As a senior officer, he lost his ideals and convictions, betrayed his original mission, was disloyal and dishonest to the party, and deceived the organization. He violated the spirit of the Central Committee's 8-point regulations, exploiting his official position to secure benefits for others. He grossly violated personal conduct regulations, engaging in an extramarital affair while his wife was pregnant, causing severe and damaging social repercussions. He associated with the wrong people, let his guard down, and was infiltrated and exploited by hostile foreign forces, posing a major potential threat to national security. Each charge landed like a sledgehammer, crushing him with its weight. He hung his head, remaining silent. Finally, the judge turned his gaze to me. Witness Su Wan, as Lu Sai's spouse, do you have anything to add to the aforementioned charges? All eyes in the courtroom were fixed on me. Lu Sai slowly raised his head as well. He looked at me, his expression complex, a mixture of anticipation and fear. I stood up. My gaze swept past him and came to rest on the judge. Your Honor, I have nothing further to add. My only hope is that the court will render a fair and lawful judgment. Furthermore, I petition the court to grant my application for divorce. As my words hung in the air, Lu Sai's body gave a violent shudder. The last glimmer of light in his eyes was completely extinguished. 8. The verdict was delivered swiftly. Lu Sai was sentenced to 3 years in prison. He was also expelled from the party and the military, stripped of his colonel rank and all honors. He went from being a golden boy, a promising special forces colonel, to a full-fledged prisoner, an ordinary man with a permanent stain on his record. This outcome was more painful to him than death itself. I knew it. His life was over. As for Bai Wei, having played a key exploited role in the case and being pregnant, she was ultimately deemed an accessory and sentenced to 1 year in prison, suspended for 2 years. As for her brother, Bai Feng, and the company behind him, they were handled separately by state security authorities, awaiting more severe legal sanctions. Thus concluded the sensational defection case in this manner. I, Su Wan, as a model military spouse praised for my unwavering loyalty and high vigilance, not only escaped any repercussions but was officially commended by the military district. Political Commissar Zhou personally handed me the recommendation materials for a second-class merit citation and a substantial cash reward. Comrade Su Wan, this is what you deserve. You have averted a major loss for our country. As I looked at that gleaming military medal, I felt nothing but profound irony. I was the one who sent my own husband to prison, ruining his life, and all I got in return was this honor. Political Commissar, I don't deserve this. I pushed the military medal back toward him. I only did what any wife who had been betrayed by her husband would have done. Political Commissar Zhou looked at me deeply for a moment, but in the end, he left the medal and the bonus behind. Please accept this. It's a token of the organization's recognition and compensation for your efforts. The divorce proceedings went through with surprising ease. With the military district's involvement, The court issued the ruling that very day. From that moment on, Lu Sai and I were nothing to each other. I didn't take a single penny from the Lu family, only what was rightfully mine. The day I left the military compound was a clear, sunny day. I dragged my suitcase along the familiar, tree-lined path. This place was once what I believed to be my home, my safe harbor. Now, only a scene of utter devastation remains. A black sedan pulled to a stop beside me. The window rolled down, revealing old General Lu. "Let me give you a ride," he said, his voice aged and raspy. I shook my head. "No need, Uncle Lu. I'll go by myself." "Suwan," he called out to me. His lips parted as if to say something, but in the end, it dissolved into a sigh. "Live well, from now on." I nodded without looking back. Dragging my suitcase, I walked out, step by step. From the place that held all my youth and love, I used my bonus and some of my own savings to rent a small apartment in the city. I needed a fresh start. I changed my phone number and cut off all contact with everyone from my past. I just wanted to be left alone to lick my wounds in peace. However, the peaceful days didn't last long. One evening, I received a call from an unknown number, thinking it was a telemarketer. I hung up without a second thought, but that number, persistent as ever, called right back. I answered with a hint of impatience. "Who is this?" From the other end of the line came a voice that was both familiar and strange to me. It was Lu Sai's sister, Lu Sisi. Her voice was no longer the arrogant, overbearing tone from before, but was choked with a suppressed sob. "Suwan, my brother, something's happened to him." My heart dropped. He killed himself, in prison." "9, what did you say?" My mind went completely blank, and I nearly dropped my phone. "He was found this morning, with a bedsheet. He was already gone." Lu Sisi was sobbing uncontrollably on the other end of the line. "Suwan, are you happy now? You drove him to his death, you murderer." I couldn't make out a single word of the curses that followed. All that was left in my ears was a deafening, buzzing roar. "Lu Sai is dead. He took his own life." I hung up the phone, collapsed onto the sofa, my entire body cold, trembling like a leaf in the autumn wind. I hated him. I got my revenge. I was the one who sent him to hell, but I never wanted him to die. I just wanted him to taste the pain I endured, to make him pay for his betrayal. Yet he, of all people, chose this most extreme way to end it all. My chest felt like it was blocked by a massive stone, leaving me gasping for air. Tears welled up and overflowed without warning. I don't know how long I cried, until the sky grew completely dark. I dried my tears, stood up, and walked over to the drawer I had never opened. I took out the letter Lu Sai had left for me. "Suwan, you've won." Looking back now, those 5 words read more like a suicide note. He was telling me that he was conceding defeat in this war. With his life, he put a bloody full stop to my so-called victory. Did I win? Staring at my reflection, pale-faced, eyes swollen, I could only feel a bitter sense of absurdity. We tore each other apart. There were no winners. I did not attend Lu Sai's funeral. The Lu family wouldn't want to see me. And I have no desire to face that scene either. I simply had someone send a wreath on my behalf, with no message attached. All the grudges, grievances, and tangled feelings vanished into thin air with his passing. I began to chart a new course for my life, leveraging my professional expertise. I quickly landed a job as a cybersecurity engineer at a top-tier domestic internet company. The compensation was generous, and the work environment was excellent. I began making an effort to meet new people and explore new things. I thought time would heal all wounds. It wasn't until that day, when I was downstairs at the office, that I saw a familiar figure. It was Bai Wei. She was wearing a simple dress, and her pregnancy was clearly showing. Because she was on probation, she didn't go to prison, she just had to report to the community center regularly. She looked utterly haggard. Her face drained of all color. Seeing me, she froze. Her eyes were filled with a complex mix of emotions, hatred, resentment, but above all, a fearful, evasive look. Instinctively, she shielded her stomach and turned to leave. "Stop right there," I called out to her. She froze, stopping in her tracks, but didn't turn around. I walked up to her, looking at her prominently rounded belly. How is the baby?" I don't know why I asked that. Perhaps it was the instinctive pity of a mother who has lost a child. Bai Wei's body trembled. She lowered her head, her voice barely a whisper. "The doctor says, everything is developing well." "That's good," I nodded. "Take care of yourself from now on." With that, I turned to leave. "Wait," she called out to me suddenly. I turned around and saw her eyes, red and brimming with tears. "I'm sorry." She looked at me and spoke, enunciating every single word. "I know how ridiculous this sounds, but I have to say it. I'm sorry, Suwan. I lost my mind. I ruined you. I ruined Sai. I ruined everything. If only If only I could turn back time. There are no if onlys. I cut her off. By way, I will never forgive you, not ever. But, I don't hate you anymore, either. Because the person I hated most is gone. All that hatred has lost its foundation. The child is innocent. For his sake, you should go on living. I left those words behind and turned to enter the office building. As the elevator doors closed, I saw Bai Wei crouched on the ground, her face buried in her hands, weeping silently. I closed my eyes, shutting it all out behind me. It's all over. 10. Life really does seem to be looking up. I worked hard and, thanks to my outstanding abilities, quickly earned my supervisor's recognition and was promoted to project team lead. I started working out, learning flower arranging, and volunteering at an orphanage on weekends. I'm making a conscious effort to lead a more fulfilling and meaningful life. I've even started opening myself up to the possibility of a new relationship. He's the company's general counsel, a refined, mature, and steady man. His name is Linja. He knows about my past, but he doesn't mind it. He said, everyone has a past. I only care about your present and your future, under his gentle persuasion. My frozen heart seemed to show the first signs of thawing. We started dating, going to movies, having meals together. Just like any ordinary couple, everything was as perfect as a dream, until that day, when I accidentally saw a photo on his phone. It was a group photo. In the photo, Linja had his arm slung around a young man in a military uniform, both of them beaming with radiant smiles. The man in the uniform was unmistakably a young Lu Sai. My blood ran cold in an instant. Who is he? I asked, my voice trembling as I pointed at Lu Sai in the photograph. A flicker of barely perceptible panic crossed Linja's face, but he quickly regained his composure. Oh, he was my university classmate, and my best friend. He smiled, his tone casual. A real shame, gone so young. His name is Lu Sai. My mind went blank with a deafening buzz, as if struck by a sledgehammer. Linja is Lu Sai's brother. How is that even possible? How in the world could such a coincidence happen? You too. We're childhood friends, grew up together. Linja's gaze settled on me, his eyes growing deep and complex. Sigh. He's always been a proud and stubborn person since he was a kid. Once he sets his mind on something, nothing can change it, whether it was joining the military, or loving you. My heart gave a painful wrench. So, you got close to me just to. It was for him. Lin Test. It was for him. Linja didn't deny it. He met my gaze calmly, after CE passed away. I was going through his belongings and found a diary he kept. Every page was about you. My breath caught in my throat. He said he knew he was wrong, that he regretted it. He said the person he'd wronged most in his life was you. He wanted to reform properly in prison, so that after his release, he could spend the rest of his life making it up to you. But he never made it to that day. A trace of sorrow tinged Linja's voice. For a man as proud as he was. Losing his uniform and losing you meant losing everything. He just couldn't go on. In his final diary entry, he asked me that if I ever met you one day, to take good care of you on his behalf. I listened in stunned silence, unable to utter a single word. So, none of this was a coincidence. It was Lu Sai's arrangement. It was another path he paved for me with his death. Suwon, I admit, my initial approach to you was at Sai's behest. Linja looked at me, his gaze utterly sincere. But during this time we've spent together, I've been drawn to you, your strength, your kindness, your independence. I've realized I've truly fallen in love with you. This has nothing to do with CE. It's me, Linja, who has fallen in love with you. Suwon. He grasped my hand, his tone earnest. Give me a chance, and give yourself one too. Okay. I looked at him, at the features so reminiscent of Lu Sai, at the deep affection and anticipation in his eyes. My heart was in turmoil. That's all for the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more exciting. After the college entrance exams, my younger brother secretly booked a flight ticket to Thailand. I pretended not to know and even transferred him 20,000 for travel expenses. In my past life, I not only stopped my younger brother but also told our parents. Because of that, he hated me for a full 6 years. While I was abroad on my honeymoon, he sold me and my husband to a scam compound. Watching the video of my legs being broken, he laughed like a maniac. You deserve this. All of this is exactly what you had coming. You ruined my life, and now I'm going to make you suffer for the rest of yours. Why did you stop me from going abroad all those years ago? My husband rushed desperately to save me, only to be beaten to death with clubs. After living a life of humiliation for over a decade, I returned home to find my parents' graves overgrown with weeds. I breathed my last. Filled with bitter resentment, when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my younger brother secretly booked the flight tickets. Sis, I want to travel abroad alone. I've already planned the whole itinerary. My 4 years younger brother, Gufei, was right in front of me, shaking my arm excitedly. Seeing I wasn't reacting, he gave me an impatient shove. Come on, sis, say something. I can't believe this. I'm an adult now. What gives you the right to stop me from making my own decisions? I've listened to you my whole life, studied hard, got into a good university. The gaoka's over now. How much longer are you going to control me? He shoved me, sending me stumbling backward until I collided with the arm of the sofa. The jolt of pain snapped me back to my senses. I looked down and saw my legs, completely unharmed, planted firmly on the ground. With a trembling hand, I reached up and touched my face, the face of youth. Still full and firm, I realized I had truly been reborn. I looked at the demon before me, my own dear brother, the one who had personally cast me into hell in my past life. An overwhelming tide of hatred nearly consumed me, but I managed to force a stiff smile. Gufei, you're all grown up now. We really shouldn't be meddling in your affairs anymore. With that, I picked up my phone and transferred 20,000 yuan to him right away. I showed him the screenshot confirming the successful transfer. I trust you completely. Here's a little something for your trip. Go have a great time. If you need more, just let me know. Gufei's eyes went wide with shock. He stared at me in disbelief, even reaching out to feel my forehead. Sis, are you running a fever? Since when are you this easygoing? I brushed his hand away, trying my best to soften my expression. I've been doing some thinking. We were all too hard on you before, always so afraid you'd take a wrong turn. But you're an adult now, with your own mind. Go do whatever you want to do. I support you. Gufei jumped for joy, let out a cheer, and ran back to his room with his phone. That's amazing. I'm going to book my flight. Sis, you're literally the best sister in the whole world. Listening to his excited shouts, my heart felt utterly cold. In my past life, when Gufei suggested going out to have fun on his own, I firmly refused, citing safety concerns. Later, I accidentally stumbled upon his secret social media account, which was filled with his curses towards the family and his real plans. He had secretly booked a flight ticket to Thailand, planning to debut as a beautiful star. I was absolutely terrified when I saw it and immediately told our parents. Both my parents are extremely traditional and conservative intellectuals. The moment they heard their son wanted to transition, their blood pressure shot through the roof. My dad pulled out his belt, my mom grabbed a feather duster, and they gave Gufei a proper double-team beating, even confiscating his passport and ID card. To my surprise, Gufei held a grudge against me from that day on. He believed I was the one who stood in the way of his dream of stardom and ruined his life. He blamed me for all his resentment, and in the end, he repaid his hatred with my life and my husband's. In this life, I won't meddle in other people's business anymore, respect others' fate and let go of the savior complex. With that thought, I took a plate of sliced watermelon from the fridge and pushed open my brother's door. He was grinning at his computer screen, but when he saw me come in, he snapped it shut. He looked at me warily. You're having second thoughts, aren't you? I knew it. You're always like this, never keeping your word. I smiled and placed the watermelon on his desk. Of course not. I'm absolutely going to support you. Then I changed my tone, feigning concern. It's just, Mom and Dad will never agree. They'll definitely say it's too dangerous for you to go to Thailand alone. My brother's expression shifted immediately. He furrowed his brow, clearly deep in thought. I patted his shoulder and said reassuringly, you'll have to figure out how to handle Mom and Dad yourself. I've done all I can. During dinner, Gufei seized the moment to bring up his travel plans. My parents exchanged a glance, their faces showing clear hesitation. Where are you thinking of going? And who with? Well, just to Korea. All my friends say it's a great place to visit, so I wanted to check it out. My dad put down his chopsticks and said with concern, Korea is unfamiliar territory. It's better if your sister goes with you. Gufei instantly objected. I'm not a kid anymore. Besides, my sister has her graduation photos and her thesis to worry about. She doesn't have time to babysit me. I chimed in right away. He's all grown up now. And besides, South Korea is quite safe. Let him go. He can just send us a photo every day to check in. It'll be fine. Seeing that I agreed, Mom and Dad finally relented. All right then. Do you have enough money? Be careful, and don't go wandering off. Plenty. Sis already chipped in for me, too. In the first few days, Gufei kept his promise and shared the beautiful scenery of Korea in the family group chat. One moment it was the bustling night view of Dongdaemun, the next it was sizzling Korean barbecue. He even made a point of taking pictures of a few Korean girls, posting them in the group with the caption, Look, Mom and Dad, there are so many beautiful women here. My mom replied cheerfully, You rascal, take care of yourself out there. And don't just spend all your time looking at pretty girls, my dad, more sternly, instructed. Don't waste money, don't drink, and make sure you're back at the hotel early in the evening. I simply liked every photo he posted in silence, never adding any unnecessary comments. After about a week, the photos in the group chat stopped coming. My mom was the first to lose it. She started frantically at my brother in the group chat. Son, why aren't you sending any more photos? Goofy. Reply as soon as you see this, otherwise, we're calling the police. No one answered the phone calls either, sending my parents into a complete panic. They contacted my brother's classmates, and all of them said they had never made plans with Goofy to go to South Korea. My parents were utterly distraught and filled with regret. My father's hair turned half gray overnight, and he kept muttering to himself, "It's all my fault. Why didn't I stop him?" My mother held me and sobbed. "What are we going to do? Has something happened to your brother?" I pretended to be even more heartbroken than they were. I cried and cried until my eyes rolled back, and I fainted, falling stiffly onto the floor. My parents were terrified. In a panic, they rushed me to the hospital. The doctor said it was a case of extreme emotional distress and overwhelming grief. When I woke up, I grabbed my mother's hand, sobbing uncontrollably. "Mom, Dad, it's all my fault. I'm the one who talked you into letting him go. If anything happens to my brother, I don't want to live either. My life is already hopeless." As I said this, I seized the fruit knife on the hospital room table while they were distracted and slashed it across my own wrist. Of course, I only broke the skin and drew a little blood, but that was enough to scare my parents out of their wits. My father snatched the knife away, trembling with rage. "You foolish child, if anything else happens to you, how are we supposed to go on living?" My mother held me tight, her sobs heart-wrenching. "That's right, your brother is already missing. You can't frighten us like this anymore." It was then that they were jolted awake to the reality. They still had another child. They absolutely could not give up. Summoning their strength, they threw themselves into two tasks, continuing to ask others for help in searching for my brother, and pouring all their remaining care and attention onto me. News from the police came quickly. Goofy's passport information revealed he never went to South Korea, but flew directly to Thailand instead. However, the Thai police made no progress, and the case was eventually treated as a missing persons report. My parents seemed to have aged 10 years overnight. To give them an outlet for their stress and grief, I signed them up for an audition to be actors in a short play. "What, acting?" My mother's eyes widened in disbelief. "Don't be ridiculous. At our age, what do we know about acting?" My father shook his head firmly. "That's something for young people. We're not going." I took their hands, my tone resolute. "Mom, Dad, just think of it as going out to have fun, to try something new. You've been carrying too much pain, you need an outlet." When they arrived on set, the director asked them to do a test scene about losing a child. My parents didn't need to act at all. My father stood there, his eyes vacant, tears silently streaming down his face. The sheer, restrained despair of a middle-aged parent who has lost a child brought a profound silence over the entire set. My mother dropped to her knees, pounding the floor. Her heart-wrenching sobs were something no acting technique could ever replicate. The director made the decision on the spot. "You're the ones." After that cathartic outpouring of emotion, my parents felt as if a great weight had been lifted from their hearts. They began taking on roles in various short dramas, always playing wealthy, high-society parents. My father's refined dignity and my mother's noble grace and compassion quickly made them a sensation in the short drama scene. They became the most sought-after typecast actors for wealthy, high-society parents in the industry. Because of what happened with Goofy, my parents completely gave up on their obsession with me taking the civil service exams. They said that as long as I'm happy and healthy, that's all that matters. So I quit my job at the multinational and returned to the dance studio. In the mirror, my figure was still light and graceful. By chance, I visited my parents on their film set and was immediately spotted by the director. The director said I had a fragile yet resilient quality, perfect for the female lead in his new film. Over the past few years, my parents gradually emerged from the shadow of my younger brother's disappearance, focusing more intently on their acting careers. Our family's popularity kept growing, and we were invited to appear on several variety shows. My parents began transitioning to star in various TV dramas, while I won a Best Newcomer award for that film, becoming a minor celebrity within the industry. 3. In this life, I ended up with the man who was my husband in my past life. He approached me on his own backstage at an awards ceremony. "Miss Gu, hello, have we met somewhere before? You look so familiar to me." I suppressed the surge of sorrow and longing in my heart, the memory of him dying for me in our previous life still vivid before my eyes. I teased him on purpose. Mr. Joe, is this how you usually hit on actresses? That line is so old-fashioned. He was completely serious. No, I mean it. Your eyes remind me of someone very important. A pang shot through my heart, but my smile only brightened. Well, I guess I just have one of those common faces. My husband comes from a wealthy family and is a well-known investor in the industry. To support my career, he became the primary investor for several of my projects. With his backing and my parents' reputation, my opportunities grew. And I quickly rose to become a top-tier actress. Our family became wealthier and successfully moved up a social class. Although my parents' lives were filled with filming and variety shows, they never gave up searching for Gouffé. They even offered a hefty reward overseas for any information leading to Gouffé. I worked behind the scenes to stop all of this. Using my connections, I intercepted most of the truly valuable intel, feeding them only harmless, fabricated leads. That all changed the day a call I couldn't intercept in time reached my father's phone. The man was a private investigator. He told me my younger brother had made his debut in Thailand and had become a household name in that whole district. Mom and Dad were so overjoyed they wept, and they cracked open a bottle of champagne to celebrate that very night. But after the initial elation, a deep sense of bewilderment set in. That little rascal, my father shouted. Slamming his hand on the table in anger, he became a star. So why hasn't he come back all these years? Why hasn't he contacted us? That ungrateful wretch. My mother wiped her tears too. Maybe he has his reasons. Could he be under someone's control? Our agent quickly booked us tickets to fly to Sawadaka. Since our whole family is now in the public eye, our agent gave us endless warnings to keep a low profile and avoid being spotted by obsessive fans or paparazzi. Actually, that detective also sent the photos to my parents at the time, but the email went to my inbox first, and I secretly intercepted it. In the photo, Gouffé was completely unrecognizable. He was wearing garish, heavy makeup and a revealing female stage costume, sitting on the lap of an obese older white man. The sight was a real eyesore, with a blank expression. I deleted the original email and only forwarded a heavily photoshopped stage photo, one so edited his own mother wouldn't recognize him, to my parents. Only by letting my parents see my brother's most authentic, most wretched state with their own eyes, would they be truly, utterly disappointed and give up on him for good. For, the night we arrived, we didn't go to see Gouffé right away. I made the excuse that everyone was too exhausted from the long flight and that we should rest at the hotel for the night. Meanwhile, I used that time to contact a local friend and had him round up a few dozen people in advance to patronize my brother's business the next day. I made a point of telling them to have a great time. The next evening, I took my parents in an unremarkable van to the place where Gouffé worked. It was a seedy bar district. The air thick with the smell of alcohol and cheap perfume. My father's brow furrowed instantly. Gouffé, he's a star in a place like this. I feigned surprise, explaining on Gouffé's behalf. Maybe the celebrities around here are just more down-to-earth. The moment we stepped into the neon-lit bar, a wall of deafening music hit us, weaving through the smoke-filled crowd. We spotted Gouffé on the center stage immediately. He was wearing garish, heavy makeup. Shrieking with excitement as he played a game of strip, he had just slipped off his tank top, revealing the lacy bra underneath, which sent the men around him into a frenzy of catcalls and whistles. My parents froze on the spot, as if struck by lightning. You disgrace. My father trembled with rage, grabbing a nearby bottle as if to charge forward. That shameless wretch. He's brought utter disgrace upon the Gou family name. Gouffé, my boy. My mother let out a heart-wrenching cry. Shoving her way through the crowd and pushing a bodyguard aside, she took off her own coat and wrapped it tightly around my brother. You thugs, get away from him. Don't you dare touch my son. The men were startled by the sudden turn of events. Seeing our tall, burly bodyguards closing in, they scattered, grumbling and cursing under their breath. Gouffé was also stunned. He frantically used his clothes to cover himself. When he saw that the newcomers were my parents and me, he let out a loud wail and burst into tears, crying even more pitifully than my mother. Why did it take you so long to get here? He cried, throwing himself into my mother's arms and pounding on her back. It's been so hard for me. You have no idea what I've been through here. I stepped forward at just the right moment, feigning shock and concern. Little brother, what on earth happened? Didn't you go to Korea all those years ago? How did you end up here? Were you tricked into coming? Gouffé lifted his tear-streaked face, his eyes glaring at me with pure venom. Stop pretending. Gu Xian, you knew I was in Thailand all along. You did this on purpose. He shoved my mother aside and jabbed a finger in my face, shouting, you deliberately kept mom and dad from looking for me. You bitch, you wish I'd died out there, with me gone, the air out of the picture. All the Gu family money would be yours. My parents exchanged a look, their faces a mixture of embarrassment and shock. They were clearly stunned by Gu Fei's shameless accusations. My father cut off his sobbing and barked, "What nonsense are you talking? Come back to China with us first. It's not safe here, " Just as we were about to take Gu Fei away, a man in a Hawaiian shirt blocked our path, with several tattooed thugs standing behind him, trying to leave, said the boss, a cigar clenched between his teeth, his smile not reaching his eyes, sure, you can, pay off what he owes us, and you can take him anytime, as it turned out. The money Gu Fei had brought with him back then wasn't nearly enough to cover the full set of surgeries, let alone fund a debut, so he signed a star-making contract with this boss for an astronomical sum, but breaking into the industry was no easy feat. Not only did he fail to make it, his debts only grew larger. To make ends meet, he had to rely on entertaining these clients to pay off his debts. My parents looked at their eldest son, who had once been perfectly fine, now reduced to this androgynous state and forced to sell his body to pay off debts. Their hearts were filled with immense grief. And they were so furious they nearly fainted. In the end, with a trembling hand, my father swiped his card to pay that enormous sum. After the three of us disembarked, we all put on sunglasses and face masks, exiting discreetly through the VIP channel. Even so, sporadic camera flashes still went off. Gu Fei clearly wasn't used to this kind of spectacle. He instinctively shrank back behind my mother. It wasn't until we were inside the van that it finally sank in for him. Watching the reporters still chasing and snapping photos outside the window, he said with a tinge of sourness, "Mom, Dad, Sis, you're all real celebrities now." He was seething with resentment, his eyes practically brimming with envy, but he quickly adjusted his expression, putting on a pitiful, tearful look, his tone dripping with feigned innocence. "But I don't blame my sister at all, even though it was her who encouraged me to chase my dreams abroad back then. And it was her who told me not to tell Mom and Dad, saying you'd never agree." My mom was tenderly wiping his face, and upon hearing this, she asked in confusion, "Gu Fei, what on earth are you talking about?" Gu Fei was stunned. My mother sighed and said quietly, "Your sister never said that. We've known about your secret social media account for a long time. You're the one who snuck off abroad, dead set on becoming some kind of star. What does that have to do with your sister?" Gu Fei's face instantly flushed a deep, beet red. He never imagined that the secret he thought was his alone was something his parents had known all along. Furious and humiliated, he burst into tears again and started throwing a tantrum, rolling on the ground. "I don't care. She's the one who tricked me. It's all her fault. She's just jealous that I'm prettier than her, scared I'll be more famous than her if I debut." He was crying in a sickly sweet, affected way, with that accent of his, which made my dad's veins bulge with anger. "You speak properly right now. My father is a deeply traditional man at heart. He could handle a rebellious son, but seeing him turn into this effeminate version was just too much. If you dare speak in that tone again, I'll break your legs." Furious, my father raised his hand, ready to give this ungrateful son a beating. I quickly stopped him and tried to reason. "Dad, please don't be angry. Don't you love your daughter the most? Your son is now your daughter, so just treat her like your precious girl." My dad grew even more furious upon hearing this. What a sin. This is truly a sin. The atmosphere in the car became unbearably awkward. Before going abroad, my parents had said that my brother had suffered terribly out there, and that when he returned, they would definitely throw a grand homecoming banquet to announce to the world that the Gu family's son was finally back. But after returning from abroad this time, the whole family tacitly avoided bringing up the matter again. In fact, we didn't even announce publicly that my younger brother had been found, because in his current state, he's simply not presentable. Back home, Gu Fei sank into the soft couch and immediately started playing the victim again. "I've really suffered so much these past few years. You have no idea what my life has been like." I nodded and poured him a glass of water. "I know, it must be awful for you, a man, to be bullied by so many other men. I'd go crazy if it were me." A flash of embarrassment and anger crossed my brother's face. "I was forced into it," he said, his voice rising to a shrill pitch. "What choice did I have?" Yeah, I know," I said, going along with him. "Now that you're back, you're safe. No one can bully you here in your own home." I even offered to let Gu Fei move into my room. "Little brother, my room is the biggest and has the best view. You should take it. And I'll move to the guest room." Seeing how considerate I was being, Mom and Dad looked at me with nothing but approval and warmth in their eyes. My mother took my hand and said, Shin, you've really grown up. You're still the most sensible one." My father also nodded. "Your brother just got back, and he's still finding his footing. Be patient with him. I nodded obediently. Don't worry, Mom and Dad. I'll take good care of my brother. Gufei watched our happy family of 3, grinding his teeth in jealousy. 6. In the evening, our whole family was sitting in the living room watching TV. Gufei's eyes nearly popped out of his head in shock when he saw his parents starring in the brand new period drama airing on CCTV1. Dad, Mom, is that you? How on earth did you get on national TV? Mom and Dad just gave a nonchalant Over the past few years, they've starred in at least 8, if not 10, dramas aired on CCTV during the commercial break. I switched the channel back to Hunan TV. They were rerunning my historical romance drama that took the country by storm. It was right at the scene where I'm in a stunning red outfit, looking both beautiful and fierce in a fight sequence. I excitedly tapped my younger brother's arm. Look, bro, that's me playing the female lead. How's the acting? Gufei curled his lips sarcastically. Mediocre performance. Your eyes are as lifeless as a dead fish's, utterly devoid of spirit. I feigned a sigh of disappointment. I'm quite dissatisfied with my own acting too. I simply can't fathom why the audience insisted on voting me last year's Best Actress for this very series. Isn't that just infuriating? Gufei's face turned livid with rage upon hearing this. He snatched the remote control from the table and hurled it with all his might at the 85-inch LCD TV. With a deafening crash, the television screen shattered. My parents both jumped in fright. Gufei, what's gotten into you now? My father roared. Gufei yelled back. You're all so amazing. You're all big stars. I'm the only useless one here. You all look down on me, don't you? After being heavily provoked by the 3 of us, Gufei's dream of stardom was reignited. He was convinced he was just down on his luck, and that if his parents had supported him back then, he'd be more famous than all of us by now. He secretly signed himself up for the hottest girl group audition show of the moment. He said he had strayed from the right path before, but now he's determined to get back on track and prove himself through his genuine ability. On the show, dressed in a pink girl group uniform, he threw himself into performing his dance and vocals on stage. To be honest, there was some genuine skill on display, but it was mostly just bizarre. Online, a wave of skepticism quickly followed. Is it just me, or does this person look like a guy? Something seems off. No way. Did contestant number 2 forget to shave her legs? OMG. The camera zoomed in and I saw her thick leg hair. LOL. I've never seen an idol so unkempt. What's the big deal about leg hair? Everybody has body hair. Our Feifei is one of a kind. Surprisingly, Gufei's unconventional behavior actually earned him a small following of fans drawn to the bazaar, and many began voting for him. After seeing the online attacks, our parents, worried that their son couldn't handle the cyberbullying, urged him to withdraw from the competition. Gufei, maybe you should just drop out. Come home, Mom and Dad can support you. Gufei, however, took it as us being afraid of his rising fame, and his attitude became even more arrogant. You just can't stand to see me succeed. Just you wait. All publicity is good publicity. I'm about to blow up. I sneered and anonymously sent a tip-off letter to both the show's production team and the State Administration of Radio and Television. Not long after, the internet exploded with the bombshell revelation that a transgender woman was participating in the girl group competition show. Even more explosive was the fact that the tip-off explicitly stated that while this individual had undergone surgery in the past, the procedure was not a complete removal. From a medical standpoint, he is still biologically male. This caused a complete uproar. Netizens overwhelmingly called for the younger brother to leave the show. The thought of their pure, innocent idol sharing a dorm room and bathroom with a man drove the fans into a frenzy. Under pressure, the production team immediately announced Gufei's withdrawal from the competition. After being kicked off the show, Gufei flew into a rage out of humiliation. He immediately went live on social media, tearfully declaring that he was Gu Xian's biological brother and that our whole family had ganged up to suppress him and prevent his debut. He produced a family photo, tearfully recounting the persecution he suffered at our hands. Just as he wished, he dragged our entire family down with him. The whole family was blacklisted. All the endorsements, film crews, and variety shows sent us sternly worded termination notices. Seeing the overwhelming torrent of online abuse, my parents felt they had lost face for generations to come. Gufei was still at home, smashing things, and having a huge, screaming fight with us. Other celebrities go all out to support their kids, turning them into star children and pulling every string to get them resources. And you don't even deserve to be called parents. You're just jealous that I'm more famous than you are now. 7. The management team held an emergency meeting overnight, and everyone was in complete agreement. Cut all ties with Gufei. issue a statement severing the relationship immediately. It's the only way to limit the damage. My parents, however, hesitated. My mother's eyes were red, her face full of pity. No matter how much of a scoundrel he is, he's still my son. He's only acting this crazy because he's been pushed over the edge. I don't blame my parents, it's true. No parent would easily give up on their child, even if he were a monster. My parents even tried to persuade me to cut ties with them. Shin, you're different from us. You're still young. You can't let us hold you back. That's right. You should issue a statement now and put all the blame on us. Through my tears, I insisted that since we had finally found my brother, nothing and no one could tear our family apart. Meanwhile, behind their backs, I got in touch with a reality show director I was on good terms with. This director's show was all about authenticity. Not only was it broadcast live 24/7, but everyone's phones were confiscated. In fact, most of the time, even the participants themselves have no idea where the hidden cameras are. I called the director and said earnestly, "Director Wong, my family is being dragged through the mud online right now. My brother is being called a pervert, and we're being labeled as accomplices. We want to join your show to show the audience the most authentic version of our family life." Director Wong was so excited his voice cracked. "No problem, Shin, I'll absolutely give you this chance. I love genuine artists like you." So, on the first day of the livestream, I lied to them, saying there was no future for us in China anymore and that I had secured some connections in Hollywood. The four of us, in a state of utter disarray, boarded the plane bound for a private island. The livestream's chat was instantly flooded with tens of millions of viewers. LMAO. Trying to make it in Hollywood, get this disgraced celebrity off the planet. What kind of family raises a pervert who sneaks into women's dorms? The whole lot of them are trash. A small number of rational fans did speak up in defense of me and my parents. I believe in Shin and her parents. They've starred in so many great works. Their character can't be bad, but their voices were quickly drowned out by the torrent of abuse. During the livestream, my brother's words and actions once again pushed the boundaries of what the audience could tolerate. He bossed our parents around and treated me even worse, with nothing but beatings and harsh words. Yet my parents never gave up, patiently teaching and reasoning with him. I even dropped to my knees before Gufei with a thud, clutching his legs and begging him through my tears. "Little brother, I'm begging you, please stop torturing us. What will it take for you to finally leave our parents and me alone? We'll give you anything we have." The tide of public opinion online began to turn the moment I knelt down. Holy crap, is this kid just born rotten? His parents and sister have been so good to him. How could he do this? Poor Gu Xin. She even got down on her knees for her brother. I'm telling the Gu family to cut ties with him, and fast. Someone like him is beyond saving. Director Wong managed to sneak me a call, saying excitedly, "Our show is the hottest variety program on the entire internet right now. The ratings have broken records. Just hang in there a little longer. Whatever you do, don't fall apart." Gufei was making a scene on the island, demanding to go back home. He said with no signal, he couldn't use his phone and was going crazy. I had no choice but to give him one of the production crew's work phones. But I had already uninstalled all the domestic apps beforehand, so he couldn't get any news from the outside world. That day, Gufei came running to me, bursting with excitement. "Sis, great news. I've gotten in touch with a big Hollywood director. He's filming in Southeast Asia right now, and he wants us to go see him immediately." He secretly used that phone to book tickets to a small country in Southeast Asia. Looking at his thrilled face, a chill ran through my heart. The place he was taking me to was none other than the same hell I knew from my past life. 8. The moment I boarded that small plane, I sent Director Wong the final signal from my work phone. "Director Wong, my brother is about to sell us to a scam compound. Coordinates sent. Contact the domestic police and the embassy immediately. Remember, keep the live stream running. Do not cut it off." On the other end, Director Wong drew a sharp breath. He instantly understood this would be an episode for the history books. After the plane landed, we were taken to a heavily guarded compound. This was the place I had spent over a decade in my past life. Everything here felt so familiar. The compound's boss smiled and handed Gufei a stack of U.S. dollars. "Well done, your parents and your sister are big stars now. They're worth every penny." Gufei took the money and kissed it excitedly. "You all just focus on filming here. I'm heading back to China first." My parents cried out in disbelief, unable to believe the scene before their eyes. "Gufei, why, what did we ever do to you to deserve this? Why would you do this to us?" Gufei's face instantly twisted into a vicious snarl as he glared at us with pure malice. "Why? Because you're all more famous than I am, and for that, you deserve to die." He burst into a maniacal laugh. I'll go back home and tell everyone you had an accident in Hollywood and died a tragic death abroad. I'll use the beautiful, strong, and tragic persona of my entire family's demise, step over your connections and resources, and make a blockbuster comeback to the entertainment industry. The live stream chat was going absolutely berserk, with the server crashing multiple times. The police have been called. A monster like this deserves to die 100,000 times over. Oh my god. Is this live? I can't believe my eyes. Is this even human? Amid my parents' desperate cries, my expression remained eerily calm. I walked step by step toward Gouffé, leaned close to his ear, and whispered so only he could hear, "Little brother, it's a shame. I regret not being able to let you experience the suffering I endured in my past life all over again." Gouffé hadn't processed it yet. "What did you say?" The next second, the compound's iron gate was rammed open by a heavy vehicle, and countless heavily armed police officers stormed in. Before Gouffé could even process what was happening, 2 officers had already pinned him firmly to the ground. All the bosses in the compound were rounded up. Watching them being fitted with hoods and handcuffs, a profound sense of vindictive satisfaction welled up inside me. They will face the full force of the law for the rest of their lives. Many innocent victims, lured here just like us, can finally be rescued and sent home. They were stunned to see the heavily armed film crew and journalists. When they learned it was my family who brought the police, they all knelt on the ground, thanking us and the program team. "Thank you, you saved our lives. Teacher Gu Xin, I'll be your biggest fan for life." 9. Gouffé was sentenced to life imprisonment for the crimes of kidnapping, intentional assault, and multiple transnational offenses, with the sentences to be served concurrently. The first thing my parents and I did after returning home was to issue a public statement. "We are formally severing all ties with Gouffé. Support. A scumbag like him doesn't deserve a family. Should have done it ages ago. The Gu family raised such an ungrateful wretch. They've had the worst luck imaginable. My heart goes out to Uncle, Auntie, and Gu Xian. I hope they can live well from now on. If you ask me, this family has the patience of a saint. With that kind of endurance, they could succeed at anything." Because of this harrowing real-life experience, our family has become synonymous with justice and anti-fraud. We've landed roles in several crime-themed movies and TV shows, always playing characters who outsmart criminals. A legal affairs program on CCTV even did an in-depth feature interview with us, sitting in the studio with my parents. I recounted that experience while a ticker at the bottom of the screen read, "Stay vigilant, steer clear of scams." Our career reached a whole new level. But that still wasn't enough. I anonymously hired a massive army of online trolls and sent all of Gouffé's photos and videos from Sawadee Ka country to every major gossip and marketing account. Overnight, videos of him kissing an older white man and stripping in a bar spread like wildfire across the entire internet. Netizens treated it like found gold, quickly turning the footage into all sorts of absurd meme videos and reaction GIFs. Gouffé was completely turned into a public laughingstock, forever branded on the internet's pillar of shame. My parents came across these bizarre parody videos while scrolling through short videos. They watched those disturbing scenes in complete silence. That night, my father drank heavily. My mother, on the other hand, locked herself in her room and cried all night. The next day, they emerged as if the final, crushing weight had been lifted from their hearts. Sheen. We've all seen those videos. Our hope is completely gone. From now on, the Gu family no longer has this son. 10. Gouffé had been a model prisoner, and after decades, he was released early. By that time, I had long since swept all the major domestic and international Best Actress awards, becoming a respected veteran in the industry. My parents had also become highly esteemed veteran actors, revered by all. The first thing Gouffé did after his release was to come looking for us, dressed in ill-fitting, worn-out clothes. He stood hunched over at the entrance to our gated community. Before he could even get close, the security guard, acting on my parents' instructions, shooed him away like a beggar. But I managed to get in touch with him and arranged to meet at an inconspicuous private cafe. With tears streaming down his aged face, he clutched my hand and pleaded, "Sis, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Please, ask Mom and Dad to forgive me." I smiled as I withdrew my hand and handed him a tissue. "Don't be in such a hurry, you're still quite famous, even if it's for all the wrong reasons. I suggest you become an influencer. Live streaming sales would definitely make you money." After decades of education in prison, Gouffé seemed a lot more subdued. No. I just want to find an ordinary job to support myself. I don't want to be in the public eye anymore. But whenever he went looking for a job, the moment he was recognized, he'd be immediately shown the door. With no other options left, he had no choice but to take my advice and start a live stream. On his very first day streaming, His channel was flooded with furious netizens, the chat completely overrun with vile comments. Gufei's mental fortitude was nowhere near as strong as it had been in his youth. In utter despair, he ran to the overpass intending to end his life. It was I who arrived just in time and pulled him back from the edge, but don't mistake this for kindness. I patted Gufei on the shoulder, sighed, and said, "It seems you can't make a life for yourself here anymore. Alright, I'll help you one last time. I'll give you some money to go abroad, start over somewhere new." He was incredibly grateful to me, thinking I was genuinely acting out of old friendship. I put him in touch with someone in Thailand directly. The boss from back then has passed away. His daughter has taken over the business now. My brother, Gufei, do you all remember him? He wants to go back to his old line of work. The person on the phone laughed heartily. Of course I remember. We're actually short-staffed right now. Some clients have rather particular tastes, and they specifically like his older type. Don't worry, Sister Gu. Once he's back, we guarantee he'll have more clients than he can handle. A week later, I received a video from them. In the video, my brother, now in his 50s, was wearing even more garish makeup than before, kneeling on the floor to serve a client. I felt a wave of relief and permanently deleted the video. My husband drove us to my parents' house for a hot pot dinner. The sun shone brightly outside, while inside, the hot pot steamed and bubbled. In this life, all the people I love are living happily and well. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.